Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Speaking of ladies, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by Black Rifle Coffee. And if you go to blackriflecoffee.com right now, what you're going to see is brand new women's apparel. Their tagline is, for ladies who love adventure, which I think would be the most awesome type of lady that there is. In addition to that, of course, you can get all of your coffee needs met. Do you like ground coffee? Do you like bean coffee? Do you like it light or extra dark? I don't know, but I know where you can go. Like I said, blackriflecoffee.com. You can do subscriptions. You can get subscriptions for their apparel, their stickers, their coffee. Evan does an ECS subscription, which I think might be sold out, but if it's not, I highly recommend. They got everything you could possibly need when it comes to upping your coffee game. Go to blackriflecoffee.com. Now, on to my guest. Jack Carr is an internationally famous author. He is a New York Times bestseller, the author of the Terminal List series, main character, James Reece. I've known Jack for damn near 25 years. Before being an author, he was a Navy SEAL. A little bit of time as an enlisted, and then became an officer. So he retired, I think we talked about it on the episode, as an 04. Started in the same Buds class together. There were some issues with his physical toughness, mental stamina and strength, and emotional capabilities. So he wasn't able to graduate with the same class that I was. But we're not going to hold that against him. But of course, we will never forget it. Episode number 232 with the world famous Jack Carr. Enjoy.
Okay, got the red smoke. Gun run, north or south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke. Okay, copy, west of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now. Come on with it, baby, give it to me, I need it. You're cleared hot. Copy, cleared hot.
You have your own podcast, right?
Yeah, and I don't do that.
And you don't understand. Do you understand why people do it?
Because it's like a sound setting thing and they know that now we're started, like something like that. I don't know.
Your lack of technical knowledge is shocking to me.
It shouldn't be at this point. It shouldn't be. It should
You
be.
really don't know why? And you've been on movie sets too. What do you think that slate does?
I didn't see anybody do this.
No, they didn't do that, jackass. They have a slate.
The slate is all electronic. It's not really
What is it doing, though?
It's so in your editing, you see like which scene and who's director. And all
Almost
that sort of
as
thing.
if it also syncs everything up, though. So if you have multiple cameras and it all starts from the same point and you have an ability to pull multiple things in and then you can link them up.
This is fascinating. I feel like I
So
should
if
have
it
known
was
this.
an audio format and you were to clap, it creates these big wave spikes, which is going to catch on all the microphones for the camera as well as the microphone here. So it allows the software to line them up. Are you sure
I'm
you
gonna
have
start,
a podcast?
I'm going to do this on set next time. I'm be like, hey guys, here we go.
So I want you to do that on set because you're going to look like an asshat, right?
I would not do that on set.
Well, on set, when you'd be like, hey, let's get the sticks out here. That's what you need to say.
I'll be like, do you guys know what that slate actually does? Let me tell
I'd
you.
actually be surprised if most of them do know.
I don't know. I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask, what does that slate do? And see if they explain it to me the same way you did.
They will.
Yeah.
Because I've asked that question on the set before. I don't know if you know this. I've done a little technical advising.
What did you advise on?
It's redacted and GS-14 classified.
Great. Those were great. I loved both of them. You were fantastic in them. It was amazing. Yeah.
No, 6 for the History Channel.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Bigger than 5, smaller than 7. People can figure it out on their own. I don't want to name the project itself.
Nice. I watched the first season. I didn't watch the second season, but I really liked the first one.
It was an interesting exposure to, as I bet it was for you as well, sitting in a chair behind a camera and seeing all of the things that goes on.
Oh, yeah.
Let alone, from the props to the armor to the rehearsals, the choreography of the shooting, and then you have to flip everything to get a different perspective. It's something that there's no appreciation for when you're sitting there watching an entertaining show until you've sat there and realize, oh, shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm so much more. I was always forgiving when I saw things on television or in film that didn't look quite right. But now I'm seeing how much work goes into it and how easy it is to mess something up. At the time, afterward, in editing, there's so many opportunities to make something horrible. It's actually shocking that anything good gets made. One, and then two, that anything good gets made. But it reminded me of a military operation or military unit because I walked on set for the first time. It's my one and only experience in Hollywood. Really is on
the
this,
one you just
set.
recently had.
Yeah, it's for the terminal list.
Yeah.
So I walk on set for the first time, and there's craft food services set up. So you're feeding the Army. You got that logistics train.
And that's actually the only thing you really need to know where it is. That and the bathrooms on set.
Yeah, those are important things to know. But then you have the explosives guy, just like we have a breacher in a platoon or a troop or whatever it might be. Then we had the mobility person, just like in a platoon or troop. You have that. So they're moving all the cars around, doing all that. You have the commanding officer as the director.
Yep.
That was Antoine Fuqua. So he's like setting the tone from the top. And then you have
Let alone
Chris.
the director of photography as well, who's got his own team of minions as well.
Oh, you have you have your the teams, and it's and for Chris, he's like the tactical level troop commander or platoon commander. So he was actually
Pratt.
So he's playing that role. So you have like your A-list star who's setting the tone tactically, and then you have your director who's setting the tone strategically. That's kind of what as I walked on set and just sat there and took it all in. That's how I related it to the military experience. There were so many similarities. And the armorer. You have the armorer who's checking out weapons to the actors and then checking them back in, checking the serial numbers,
and hopefully
just like we would in
not
platoon.
putting live rounds in.
That's a good first step. Yeah. You might want to double check, but it was interesting.
Or triple.
yeah,
or
probably.
just not have live rounds on set.
Yeah, it seems like to have live round. I don't quite get that, but every time someone handed Chris a weapon, so you have the armorer.
Yeah.
You have a couple of them actually, at least on our set, and the main one would wait if Chris was having something done, like I don't know, hair, makeup, putting some blood over here, or whatever. I was talking to somebody about the scene or whatever it might be. The guy would wait, just patiently standing there with that pistol, whatever it was, and then when Chris was done, he'd turn, and the guy would show him, and Chris would look, he'd take it, he'd check it again.
Yeah.
And then every single time, and there was a former Marine, the guy that was the armorer on set, awesome guy, also a Land Cruiser fan, but he was fantastic and so professional. And so
not
Chris,
all actors are like that in my experience.
Yeah.
They have varying degrees of knowledge and experience with guns.
Yeah.
And also, in my experience, varying degrees of desire to have any knowledge or experience with guns. Some of them don't want to have anything to do with it and it's weird, right? Because on a movie set, maybe you don't know this. To drive a car, you have to have a driver's license.
On a movie set?
On a movie set.
Just like in real life?
Just like in real life. The industry would probably be better served if they required some level of firearms training. Well, it's not necessarily required in real life either. Even though it should be, I would argue. Yes, you should be able to go out and exercise your Second Amendment right. But maybe the Second 5 Amendment should be the training.
Might be a good idea to take that next step and get some training.
Yeah. No, it's and let's go back a step here. Let's not put Chris as an A-list star.
A+, I'd say.
B- probably.
Come on.
Have you seen the Jurassic Park series?
You don't like what's wrong with Jurassic Park? This next one's coming out here in June.
Yeah. What is it, Jurassic
Do your kids
Park
like it?
15?
Do your kids like it?
Yeah. Jurassic Park 15. We found another one. Yeah. Oh, it's a dinosaur that got free.
Oh, yeah. Guess what? And guess if this one does well, they'll continue to find those things. Yeah.
Fast and Furious 47 is what they're on right now. Same thing.
Yeah. If I find something that works and people want it and people want more and then more of those characters typically. A lot of times when things die, it's because there's no connection to the character, whether it's the actor or the person that the actor's portraying on screen, and that's kind of how things die off.
No,
because people like the characters in the Fast and Furious stuff. It's like you have so many explosions and car chases and things jumping between buildings, but like you can only show so much of that. Another bigger explosion, another car chase, another whatever drift or whatever they're doing in those movies. But people like those. People want more of those characters. They want more of the same actors playing those characters, and they want that to continue. That's why they keep doing it, and that's why those kind of movies pay for all the other ones that like win the Academy Awards that no one ever has heard of or seen. You know, it's like Avengers makes the money for everybody else. You know, same thing in publishing. It's like John Grisham and Stephen King and James Patterson. They make money for all the other books that don't make their money back, don't make those investments back.
How much has the Avengers made? It's in the billions,
That's
right?
a lot. I don't know.
Does Chris's Guardians of the Galaxy, are you pulling that under the Avengers umbrella?
I guess now because it's connected.
They all are kind of connected in one I will say he's excellent in that role for a B- actor. If he was here, I wouldn't say that.
He's about to break out to A-list status with The Terminal List coming July 1st, Amazon Prime Video. So
listen,
just wait.
If he was here, I wouldn't tell him.
I gotta show you the
B-.
preview. It's top secret. I gotta show you the teaser. People keep asking me when the teaser's dropping or the trailer's dropping.
We'll just upload it with this episode. We'll redact it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. If he was here, I wouldn't tell him that he was B-. I'd be like, hey, you're fucking C+, obviously.
He'd appreciate that. He'd appreciate that. He was fantastic, but I can see how if you have a crazy actor on set or a crazy director, like how that can just poison
Imagine
the
if you
entire
had both.
set, which is probably happens more often than not. It was very interesting to me that, and the other executive producers would tell me that they have never seen this on a set before. And you have like the hair and makeup person coming over, tracking me down in something that's called Video Village, where the executive producers have like 6 of our chairs where we're watching the screens and all that, and would say, hey, my nephew's about to go to boot camp tomorrow, you sign a book, and I always brought a big box of books every time and just absolutely sign and boom, and someone's like, hey, my son's going to his first deployment or whatever else, and
would you write inspirational things in there?
For those ones, for their military, brand new?
It's not the move.
Yeah.
It's not the move.
You're making a mistake.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Remember, when it gets hard, you can always quit. Jack Carr.
It's a, no, it's a volunteer program. But no, and then he said that's very unusual. They've never seen people walk up to a writer or author on set or make their way over to Video Village to talk about stuff like that. People would come by and talk about Land Cruisers, hunting, guns, knives, like
all
normal,
the good shit.
Exactly. Because what people see, they see the actor or whoever, producer or director, get up there at the Oscars or Golden Globes and make some crazy speech. And
for the 7 people that watch outside of the audience.
Exactly. And give themselves awards and all that. But that's 3 people, maybe 4 or 5. There were 350 other people on set making that stuff happen that just want to put food on the table. They want to do the best they can possibly be at their individual job, which is the other thing that I took away is how good they were at that very specific thing that they did. And you hear rumors about, hey, in Hollywood, you can't help. Like if your job is X, you can't do Y. And now I see why, because this is like a Lamborghini going at 1,000 miles, 250 miles an hour, whatever it is. And if somebody's not doing and one piece is not working, then it's da-ding, 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 da-ding. It goes off the rails. So now I get it because everybody's so specialized and so good and so focused that keeps that thing running. But if somebody's not there or they're not paying attention, then off the rails it goes.
I think a lot of people would probably think that the machine behind the curtain, if you will, would be mostly white collar. In my experience, it's 99% blue collar workers busting their ass from a physical perspective, and a very, very small amount of white collar work that gets the vast majority of the credit.
Yep. No, that's exactly it. You have, and then you have above it you have all the other levels. For us, it's Amazon. So going all the way to the top at Amazon and then coming back down with notes or whatever it might be for the script as things morphed as we went along. Because once you bring the actors in, you might have some scripts and you might have morphed those scripts and got them where you want them to be. But as soon as those actors get involved and start portraying those characters, they bring something to it, and that can morph what happens 2 or 3 episodes down that's already been approved, and so you change that up and that goes up and it comes down with notes. So it was an interesting experience, but I enjoyed it.
How much did they try to change it?
From the book?
Yeah.
Oh, it's very different in that, and I like to give this example for those who have read First Blood, which was published in 1972. So we're coming up on the 50th anniversary of it never being out of print. So for 50 years, that's never been out of print, which is very unusual.
Does that mean they just keep printing more hard copies every year?
Yep, or in this case, probably more paperback at this point, but it's always been in print. And then the movie with Sylvester Stallone comes out about 10 years later, and very different, but both awesome.
Hold that thought. I forgot to turn off the AC.
Easy for me to just keep thinking about First Blood. So
it happens so infrequently. You're a special guest.
Hey, awesome. I love it. Thank you. That's going to keep me warm through the rest of this. But it's I went into my first talk with the showrunner. So the showrunner in a series is like it's like a director kind of like in a feature film. Like he's managing all the multiple directors and everything going on. And his experience with authors was that you don't really want them around because you don't want that guy sitting there on set saying, "You ruined my vision. That's not how I wanted this." And so usually they just want you to push you to the side. But Chris and Antoine wanted me involved, so they've set up a call with me and the showrunner in December of 2019. So before we'd written any scripts, and I told them that story. Talked about First Blood. Talked about growing up, reading all all these books, reading all these thrillers that I grew up reading, knowing what I wanted to do, and then watching a lot of those being adapted to screen and knowing which ones worked and which ones didn't for me as a fan. And so I think I put him at ease with that. And then we were inseparable really for now almost 3 years. And
I didn't read First Blood, but I did see the movie.
Very different.
Where were the differences?
You feel like you shouldn't have to say spoiler alert because it's been 50 years.
At this point, I think we're free and clear to talk about Rambo.
Oh, man. There is a big spoiler, though. Very different. But I'll say before
Really?
Oh, yeah. But before maybe I'll mention it, maybe I won't. But other than that major spoiler, both Sheriff Teasel and Rambo, and he's not called John Rambo in the book, he's just Rambo, they're both protagonists and antagonists. So there are both good guys and bad guys, and you don't really know which one is good, which one is bad. And then Colonel Troutman, he's like that bridge. He's Uncle Sam. He's Samuel Troutman for a reason. Uncle Sam, like he is Uncle Sam. He created Rambo, and the spoiler is what happens Rambo. After that. Yeah.
And what's the spoiler? Don't hang that out there and not tell people.
I think we've talked about it enough that those who don't want the spoiler can pause it for a second or fast forward by 15 seconds. But at the end, Colonel Troutman kills Rambo.
Really?
Yeah.
How?
Shotgun.
Really?
Yeah.
If you had had me guess the spoiler, I would not have guessed that.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
the additional Rambo movies would not have been made.
No, and it's fantastic. So actually, there's novelizations of those next two Rambo movies that David Morrell, the author, writes. And in the 80s, that was something. It was a novelization. So you get it from a script, and then you turn it into a book. It goes out when the movie comes out. And at the beginning of that, it obviously has an author's note. It explains how we're going into a second book with the main character having been killed in the first one. But it's very clever with the way he just says, "Hey, in the book, Rambo dies. In the movie, he lives," and off we go.
Off we go.
And those novelizations are great as well, by the way.
Why did Colonel Troutman think he needed to kill Rambo?
Because he created Rambo, and he could be so really what it is, it's a refighting of the Vietnam War on U.S. soil. That's what it really is at its base. And Sheriff Teasel represents like that World War II Korean era generation. Mm-hmm. Rambo represents that new generation, and they collide. Those generations collide, and Colonel Troutman is the only one that can kill what he, acting as the U.S. government, Uncle Sam, can destroy his creation. So it's really interesting. It actually was taught in colleges up until the movie came out and it became more popular culture, and then they stopped studying it in most colleges. But it's a fantastic read for those who have not. I'm
actually going to pick it up because I find that storyline to be more compelling to me than the movie, which was wildly entertaining when I first saw it at probably the age of 7.
Yeah, First Blood's fantastic. I love the movie. One of the last times they used, like, they didn't do any green screen type stuff. Like, it started to get more technologically advanced in film after that. But it was one of the last ones where everything was people doing it for real.
Deli was telling me about it wasn't in the first one, it was in one of the subsequent movies, the explosive arrowhead that they used.
Fantastic, yeah. Zzz. Oh, yeah.
But it was apparently a spray painted like black plastic container that other arrowheads would come in that they basically put on a tent pole.
Nice.
So when he shot it, you could just see
see it go like this in slow motion. Yeah, you can see it do that for sure. Actually, we tried to recreate it recently. Richard Ryan did recreate it.
Yeah.
And then last year I went out there to Austin. We tried to recreate it on his property out there, and we had some technical issues. So we'll try to do that again at some point.
But apparently to an archer, you could clearly see that was just the packaging that actual broadheads came in. And a fucking tent pole.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Well, the explosive, the case that says explosives, it's great. It's like, remember the A-team, like the stamp?
Yes.
That's how it says explosives, and you open it up. But it's all fantastic. And you got to watch these things through the lens of 1983, 1985. And then it's fantastic. You can't be too critical looking back, I don't think. Otherwise, it's not, well, maybe it can be an entertaining viewing experience, but I don't know. I like to watch it through the eyes of like,
same.
10-year-old Jack.
Predator.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing.
I think that stands up, though, doesn't it?
It does. Well, the CGI doesn't stand up phenomenally well in comparison. But I, again, remember the first time seeing that. It probably was 10 years old maximum. Yeah. It was the coolest movie I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So great. Yeah, I remember seeing that, too. That night it came out with my dad and brought a buddy with me. I still remember his name. And I probably went back and saw it 10 times after that.
In your SEAL career, Jack, did you ever get to carry a minigun with you with a backpack full of ammunition?
No, but I saw the Black Rifle guys doing that recently. They did some sort of a video.
They got through about 10 rounds before the barrel was coming up to elevation that would have taken down a commercial airliner.
I think so, but then didn't they also use it with blanks, and then it worked with blanks. It looked like
yeah, because there's no recoil. As you
so
know.
it was like it looked good. Like that looked like they were having some fun. And I think Richard Ryan put one on the Tesla. Didn't he put one on the Tesla?
I believe there's miniguns on both sides of the Tesla.
Yeah, I think he's threatening to, not threatening, I'd love to do it, but take that out when I'm in Austin here for the book tour and shoot that thing. So that'd be pretty sweet.
I wonder if they have to store that thing in a safe, where they just take the miniguns off and put them in a safe.
That's a good question. I'll find out. I'll get back to you. I guess that the miniguns come off and go in a safe.
That would be my guess, because I'm assuming that is a highly controlled piece of equipment.
Yeah, you don't just park that in front of the house on the street. Just, hoping no one breaks a window.
How tough do you think people will think that we are after we talk about the quiche we just had right before we went live?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You had quiche. You had questions about quiche. More questions about quiche than any.
I just thought it was odd that you brought me to a place that served quiche and that we ate it cold. Those were the two things that stand out in my mind that I'll never forget.
How much warm food did you get in your SEAL career?
Well, I just don't know about that. I mean, it seems like we should have put it in a microwave. It just seems like that would have been
like a waste of time?
No, like 30 seconds worth of time.
Food to me tastes identical, hot or cold.
Really?
It's one of the holdovers for me from our previous career. If you put food in front of me, I will do two things. One, guard it with my life, and two, eat it as fast as humanly possible.
Well, the worst MRE, to me anyway, was the eggs, like the omelet.
Oh, the breakfast omelet?
Yeah.
5 Fingers of Death wasn't that good.
5 Fingers of Death, not a close second for me.
Yeah, hot dogs for people listening.
Yeah. But the egg one just always I didn't like that one.
Well, it wasn't eggs.
I seemed like it would have been smart to warm that one up.
I guess.
If you had to. If you had to eat it.
Oh, I would just starve. If my choice was between not eating and eating the omelet MRE,
come on,
I'm going hungry.
Eventually you're going to eat it.
No. Eventually what I would do is rifle through one of my buddy's shit and remove his MRE.
If you were locked in this room.
Why would I be locked in this room, Jack? I have the keys to it.
Well, it's like a bad example. If you're left in a prison cell that...
why am I there?
Well, I can think of a few reasons why you would be there. we don't need to go down that path. Point being, eventually, if you were really hungry, you might eat it. And if you had the choice, you might warm it up with that little warming thing that they had with those.
The chemical
MREs.
heater.
Yeah.
You want to hear a funny story that ties into reasons that I may or may not should have been in jail earlier in my career. And this is the power of social media, and I think on a positive direction. I'm sure you've heard me talk. You were at Team 5 when I might have gotten in a little bit of trouble.
Going to Starbucks?
No.
Oh, no.
No, it wasn't First off, fucker.
The zip that you were wearing your flight suit.
Brugger's Bagels.
Okay,
all right?
I keep putting, because they were across the street from each other, kind of, catty corner-ish.
Yeah,
or close. So
I haven't told that story, nor am I planning to, all right?
I'll keep it to myself then.
Sometimes you're limited on time and you need a goddamn tuna fish bagel, all right? And sometimes you run into a high-ranking dude who doesn't appreciate the uniform that you're in.
Who then brings the entire SEAL command together to talk about that.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for bringing that up,
sorry.
fucker.
I'm sorry.
And it was when I lost my Trident, when I was in Tucson and I was running from the police after the bar incident with our platoon. I got an email last week from the officer that arrested me.
No way. That's awesome.
And we're like chatting back and forth. He was just like, dude, I heard you telling that story on the Black Rifle podcast. He goes, I was dying laughing at your retelling of it. He's like, we told that tale inside of the Tucson PD for years. And he goes, I appreciate you were honest about it and that you talked about the lessons that you learned from it, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And
that's
I'm like,
awesome.
Fuck. And so I'm like, yeah, dude, what are you up to now? He's a retired officer. It's like,
wow, that's amazing.
Full circle.
Yeah.
We're talking late 90s. That it was probably 98.
Uh-huh.
He's like, yeah, we were a step or two ahead of you. We were just waiting for you at the gate, and you guys were hilarious. It was
What were you doing? Because I did see that clip briefly on Black Rifle's Instagram.
It was the first trip that I had been on after receiving my Trident. It was myself, Jason Lewis, and one other guy got our Tridents at the same time. Formative moment in a SEAL's career, as you well know. And then it's like, we're going to go do a cast trip, close air support in Tucson with, I think it was A-10s and probably F-16s.
A-10s for sure, probably some F-16s going down there. And then when we were there, we had Apaches or Cobras, maybe both. That was
we didn't have
cool.
any rotary. It was all fixed for us. There was like a week of doing casts. Hard to describe, I think, what that moment means when you've wanted to be in a community and then you made it there, but you're a new guy right? Maybe you work at the master at arms a little bit before you get into your platoon, sweeping the grinder, which means concrete fucking parking lot or asphalt.
Yeah.
Then you get into your platoon, but you still don't have your trident. You're still the new guy, but then you get it. And you finally have arrived.
Bam.
In Tucson. You have finally arrived.
Did they pin you in Tucson or do it at Team 5 before
Team
you
5.
left? Yeah.
Yes, and we got they would probably describe it as celebratory, but there are 3 pins on the back of a trident that are normally they go through a layer of clothing and they have, what would it be, a clasp that goes on the back? Let's just say that everybody I worked directly with removed those and then pinned the trident directly to my chest multiple times.
Oh, yeah. You know what surprised me about that was how the guys I thought were going to hit the hardest didn't hit that hard, and the guys I was like, hit so hard.
Yeah.
Like that for whatever reason that stands out to me. But continue your story of your arrest.
Tucson. The last day of training, I don't remember if it was weather or whatnot. The aviation wing's like, hey, we can't make it. So what we have is a SEAL platoon with about 36 hours on their hands.
Oh, yeah.
The call was made at like 9 o'clock in the morning that they weren't going to come. What's the only reasonable alternative to training?
I think going to the bar and drink.
Correct.
Yeah.
At that hour,
Makes
only
sense.
a strip club was open. I'm 20 at the time, mind you. So I did look relatively similar to somebody who was in my platoon, who had a driver's license and a military ID. No big deal.
Yeah. And they gave you the military one probably?
Pretty much.
Or less, yeah.
Actually, one of the older guys in the platoon just kind of threw me over his shoulder at the strip club entrance, and they never said anything. Much later that day.
Shocking.
Much later that day, one of the members of the platoon, I'll tell you his name offline, actually ended up getting into serious felonious trouble from a financial perspective. Stole from the community.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, gets a little mouthy. There is a patron at the bar who is outside of weight standards, in his opinion. He decides to discuss her appearance.
Oh.
She's related to the owner of the bar. Guess who gets kicked out? He gets kicked out. He's on the ground. Bouncers are on top of him. He was a total fucking asshole. The cops show up. We talked the cops out of putting him in the back of the cop car. Actually, he was in the back of the cop car. And we're like, we'll get him out of here. We'll leave. You know, you guys are so smart. We're so stupid. You're very good looking. We're not very attractive.
True.
Whatever we needed to say.
Right.
And all they basically said was, get him the fuck out of here and take him back to wherever you're staying. They let him out of the cop car, and he immediately goes back and starts talking shit to the man.
I knew exactly. You didn't even need to say it. I knew exactly where that was going.
Needless to say, it escalated. There might have been a knife involved that was in my hand very briefly. Nobody was touched with anything. A police car turns their lights on, and I'm faced with a decision. Do I stay or do I go? I think there's a pop song about that. I went with the latter.
Yeah.
So I took off running. Many more cars became involved. I trespassed momentarily to evade police officers. Was up on a roof, fell through a tree, landed directly in front of my platoon that was walking to the next bar. So they picked me up, switched out T-shirts, drank for another few hours.
Wow.
That same individual ended up getting his ass kicked in a street fight later on. He's sitting in the passenger seat of the Navy 12-pack van that, of course, we were all in, fucking straight white Navy van.
U.S. government license plate.
Pulls up to the Davis-Monthan gate and bloody face. And guy goes, what the hell happened to you? And his response, deadpan, was, I was kicking my own ass.
Okay.
And then they say, is there an Andy Stumpf in the car? I'm like, and I was fucked. Because when we were talking to him out of the cop car, we're like, this is who we are. This is what we're doing here. This is where we're staying. Somehow none of us remembered that. So instead of really chasing that much, they just went to the base. And that's where this individual read me my rights, and I got my little citation.
Wow.
I didn't actually get taken away. They, they wrote out all this stuff. They called the command. There may or may not have been a Master Chief waiting for us who flipped the table. That was my first XO/captain's mast.
Wow.
Yeah.
Probably made more of an impression on you than an actual one, you know?
It was an incredibly formative experience because it totally recalibrated not only how I thought about the people that I worked with, but more importantly myself. Because there were so many, of course you go back, right? The classic error chain.
Yeah. One being 9 a.m. strip club alcohol.
No, what are you talking about? That's fine.
And then how many hours elapsed until the alleged incident?
Like 14. Of heavy drinking.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with 9 a.m.
I don't
alcohol.
see how I don't see the connection.
Yeah. I mean, there's clearly not. No, like you look back at the era chain of things that happened, and even just myself, I was probably an E4.
Yeah.
Not the senior man.
Yeah.
But looking back at what I know about the SEAL community now, I could have absolutely stopped that multiple times. Say it gets past the 14 hours of drinking and just at the bar where the guy's being an asshole.
Yeah.
Could have and should have stopped it. And having that realization and shifting that for me that early in my career was fantastic.
Nice.
And I got asked, that was the first question they asked me when I sat down for my screener for the East Coast. They go, so tell us about what happened in Tucson. I was like, well,
you see.
And then one of the Master Chief goes, what would you have done differently? And I explained to him, like, I told him the truth. I was like, listen, at that point in my career, I thought that the people that I was working with walked on water. They were the heroes that I wanted to work with. If they would have told me to lay down on a bed of coals, I would have done it.
Yeah.
I have a different perspective now, and what I would have done is not listen to any of that shit, and I would have stopped it. And the guy goes, well, what if it was me? And I'd say, and I told him, I was like, I would stop you, and I don't care about what your rank is, and I don't care about how long you've been at that command. They're like, okay, moving on. Next question.
Nice. They didn't ask you about the Brugger's Bagels incident?
Listen, fuckface.
That seems much more formative.
To get out of that one, all I had to do was write a book report.
Did you really?
Yeah.
What was the book?
I don't remember.
It wasn't First Blood. We know that.
It was, obviously it wasn't. I'm still shocked that Colonel Troutman killed Rambo. I'm going to have to come to maybe talk with a therapist about that one for a little bit.
I know it's shocking to people who have just seen the movies.
Yeah. But those things happening early on, I think they helped me out a lot later on in my career. I'm not recommending that anybody do anything like that. The Brugger's one was clearly... it was a difference of opinion of what the actual rules were.
It was pretty ridiculous of that guy to put you in front of the whole SEAL team like that. I remember being like, what? Yeah, that seemed a little bit. Meanwhile, you have guys walking across the street in jungle boots with dive socks rolled over the top, with shorts, UDT shorts you can't even barely see because
their dick and balls are hanging out of their shorts.
Blouse, or I don't know what we call it, a blouse. The
camo top.
Yeah, a camo top buttoned up that hides the shorts, so you look like you're just not wearing any pants.
Yeah.
That's okay to walk to the country store.
That's an awesome look.
Like that's okay, but you couldn't stop for like 5 seconds to grab a bagel in your flight suit?
Early in the morning on the way to jump training. That's why I was wearing a flight suit.
Like that's the stuff. Actually, that's the stuff that drives me crazy. Like even though it's not, this is not some huge strategic thing.
Yeah.
But that right there is just like, hey, come on, look at these two things.
Yeah.
And then tell me which one makes more. They're fine for both, but come on, it's just.
Jocko,
I'm so glad I'm not in the military anymore.
Jocko asked me when I was on his podcast, because some of these stories came up. He goes, "What rank did you get in the most trouble at?" And I had to think about it. I said about an equal amount of trouble at every rank.
No, it's easy. I guess it was like I guess when you're E3, 4, E5 at a SEAL team, part of that E5 mafia, it's a very formative time, but a lot of the things that you do that make you close to one another, a lot of times involve alcohol, involve off-duty hours, and make for some good stories later on a podcast.
Yeah. God, I had forgotten about the fucking Brugger's Bagels.
I'll never forget the Brugger's Bagels because it was so ridiculous. Not me. That's one of those things that stands out in my mind. Like, what? That's also at the time when we were just starting to realize that maybe we're not going to go off and do all these secret missions in the middle of the night and come back in time for beers at the barn here in Coronado. Yeah. I'm going to have to go.
And wake up in the surf with a high heel shoe.
Exactly. That's what about all these things we're coming to realize that. And, of course, obviously, November 11th happens, a few years later, and then we actually get to go do the job. But that was a shock that we weren't doing that kind of a job right when we walked across that quarterdeck, and we're getting in trouble for Brugger's Bagels.
The only job that I did walking across the Team 5 quarterdeck, it was split between two things. One was standing watch, and the other one was sweeping.
A lot of sweeping
and taking out the garbage.
Yep.
Working for the Master at Arms, waiting for my
SQT,
platoon.
Yeah, waiting for SQT, waiting for your platoon. Yeah, I did a lot of that same sort of thing: sweeping, mopping, painting walls, changing light bulbs. SEAL stuff.
Yeah, the best of the best.
Hey, it's humbling. It's good. It's good. It's fine. But they don't do that. I think it's different now. They don't do that stuff anymore. You show up with your trident. You don't have to prove yourself is on probation for 6 months or whatever they called it. I think it was called probation.
I feel like you're still going to probably have to prove yourself.
Yeah, but you have
not to get your
different.
bird, though.
Yeah, it's different because you're not wearing that thing. Yeah, you haven't been given that blessing by your peers.
You think that's better or worse?
Worse. I think having that blessing by your peers, I think that was pretty powerful. Like you've
I
been
think
accepted.
it might be better though as far as a baseline product arriving because they've all gone through that systematic training. So you at least know that the puzzle pieces should be interchangeable. But I do think it's worse when they aren't held accountable to their peers for that period of time.
Yeah, it was just a special thing. Maybe it's because I'd read about it so much, this probation period. Like, even though you finished this toughest training in the world type thing, and you get to your SEAL team, you're still not a SEAL. You haven't been accepted by your peers. You're on probation. You have to prove yourself to those who you're going to go down range with. And at the time, we thought to war.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think, no.
Was it about a year for you too?
Till I got it? Yeah, probably a year. Maybe even a little over because you got there first. You did the first SQT. I did the second SQT that they did at group. So I was like 4 months behind or something like that. So probably a year and 4 months or something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was a good time. It was a good time. But your original question.
Was it though?
I think it was. I have good memories of it. Good memories of it.
What was my original question?
If the book was like the like the film, but I have great memories from there. You know, some of the guys that aren't with us anymore, great memories of them going out in the surf zone and you know, just splashing around out there, running on the beach. Just I had good memories going to Fallon, doing those first JTAC type courses before it wasn't even a real official course. Going out to Nyland, first to help just out there, and then to actually go through with your platoon. Yeah, those were good. I have good memories of those days.
What was the first funeral you went to?
It might have been Mikey's.
That's what I was thinking back when you were talking about when you mentioned the people that passed away. I think Mikey's was mine as well too.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I think people got hurt before that, and we had to help move their houses and like really hurt. Remember the guy with the paragliding accident?
Yes.
Yeah. We had to go like move his house with his wife and kids. So I remember that. I hadn't thought of that probably in 20 years until you just brought that up. But then, Mikey's was the first.
Yeah, and so for people listening, it was a skydiving training accident, actually at a civilian drop zone. Yeah. I believe he had a main reserve entanglement. Either way, he impacted the ground at a very high rate of speed, which ended up taking his life. And that was the first in-service death that I was ever around. Yeah, for sure. How much of an impact did that have on you at the time?
I think a lot, obviously, but I'm trying to think the way it did. And I think we talked about this the first time I came on. You were the first person to tell me. Do you remember that? Yeah, so I pulled in the parking lot, which there was no gate at the time on that side of the base. You could just drive in. It's just the SEAL teams. I don't think there was till after September 11th. I think
up until about 10 years ago, you could hold up a Navy Federal ATM card and they would wave you through.
Well, I think there was no physical person there. You could just drive onto that side of the base, I think. But anyway, I pulled in right there, and I only remember that because I parked right there. I didn't go to the back parking lot for whatever reason. I don't remember why, but I parked right there, right when you pulled into that gate in front of the SEAL teams because it was close to the quarterdeck entrance. I forget why I did that. And then I walked, probably because I saw you. I saw you and Jason Lewis walking out, and that's probably why I didn't go to the back parking lot. So I just pulled over and parked and got out. And I was like, hey. And then I knew immediately that something had happened. I saw both your faces. You both were about to get in a car. You closed the doors, and then you start walking towards me, and then you guys told me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then,
And then
our other friend had to go well, I don't know how much we should go into this. Had to go pick up his wife and knew that he was no longer with us and couldn't tell.
Oh, for the notification?
The notification. Yeah,
it gets the notification of the next of kin. The guest I just had on, Michelle, the news was reporting that there was an ambush and American soldiers killed in Africa. Mm-hmm. And she was sitting at the top of her stairs waiting when she heard the notification team arrive. Went through the entire next day, got her kids off to school in the morning without telling them until their grandfather could come, and then told them afterwards. Can you imagine the fucking face that you would have to put on knowing that your husband and that their father is dead, and putting on a face for your kids to notify them in an environment that you thought was the most suitable? Like, holy shit. And there's been a couple times where the notification was being outstripped of the notifying the CACO. Is it the CACO or?
I think so. CACO? Okay.
I think in the Navy it's a CACO. I think they use a different terminology in other branches. I've been kind of proximal to a few times where it was getting outstripped by either the rumor mill, fucking people on the phone, or the news, and they had to accelerate the notification process. Mm-hmm. What a nightmare. What an absolute fucking nightmare.
Yeah. I mean, for that one, obviously no social media. Yeah, there's the internet,
this is
but
the
nobody,
90s.
barely people are. Yeah, this was 2000. Yeah, it was 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing. Nobody's phone's beeping yet. You still have a flip phone probably.
But you only had like 50 minutes of talk time on it for $300 a month.
It's the end of the month. You're probably not. Yeah, you're not going to get
That first
those
month,
minutes.
you got to build those rollover minutes.
The rollover minutes. Oh my goodness, yeah. But yeah, that was the first one, and then we went and did that whole thing, the memorial and then the burial and all the rest of it, and then my platoon decided it was time for me to go to with Greg. I won't say his last name because I'm not sure, about that sort of thing. Sent us to jump school, to free fall. Yeah. Like a week after, like our best friend essentially
died. Yeah, doing free fall. Yeah.
So hey, you're going to jump school. Okay, so that was one of those ones where I was like, I think that's so my mind goes from dealing with family and all that stuff because we were so tight, and then to like the next day kind of going in and them knowing how tight we were in the platoon and saying, hey, take all the time you need. Oh, wait, by the way, you're going to jump school next week.
Yeah, take all the time
like,
you need
whoa.
as long as it's not past next week.
Yeah, jump school. So that was interesting, going to jump school right after that. And they sent both of us. Me and Greg went and did that together. And then two people died in our class.
What?
Yeah, an instructor and a student collided at night, hit heads. And we had to get online and walk the desert and find the bodies. Yeah, I didn't find them, but the group did, but I didn't.
Did their canopies deploy or did they impact?
No, before they were both like one was tracking and one was at night and like direct hit.
It's not a safe activity. It looks great on movies. That classic diamond formation coming out of the back of a C-130 with all the gear on. It could be. Actually, it should be, if you're doing a proper risk assessment and mission planning, it should be the most dangerous portion of any operation, which is probably why it's not used that often.
No, use that often. I think that was our second to the last jump in Yuma. So it was the Army jump school.
Night jumps, yeah.
And second to last jump that happens. So then we have to wait. So they have to do the investigation and all that stuff. And I think it was about a week, maybe a week and a half or something until we had to go up and do it again with no... I mean, you have how many jumps at that point? Not many.
Probably 20.
Something, if that. And then, maybe 20, whatever it is. But still, now you're waiting for a week. You're still not that comfortable, especially with oxygen and that, the regular rucksack, tied the old school way, however we did that. And then we had to go do that one last one after that. So that was interesting. But, crazy.
Did the deaths that you were near in service as your career went on, did they impact you more or less? Or about the same?
That's a very good question. I think depending on the relationship that I had with the person, like Mikey's obviously was so impactful because we were so tight, had gone through BUDS together, gone through SQT together, we're in sister platoons together, families knew each other. I was there the day his kid was born, like all of that stuff. So we had such a core group there. So that obviously impacted. Then in Afghanistan, when I was augmenting your former command, a guy got killed on that one. And I had known him only through that deployment, so I'd known him for a couple months, but pretty impactful months to me because those guys, they took me under their wing. Brand new officer, my combat experience, quote unquote, was shipboardings in the Northern Arabian Gulf, which was cool before September 11th, not so much after. And then I got tossed into Afghanistan with those guys who'd already, I think, because of this squadron, it was some guy's third because they did the initial and then they did the thing that, so anyway, so they had some experience, point being, for that time frame.
Yeah, comparatively,
young. Yes. So those guys really took me under their wing, and I still look back on that. I'm so thankful for those guys that didn't just, treat me like an augment like I was, but really, brought me into the fold and taught me a ton. But a guy got killed on that one, and then seeing the process, seeing everything that happened afterward. So I think they all do varying degrees based, I think, on how well I knew the person, like Adam Brown, and that book, Fearless, is incredible, talking about all the things that he went through in his life to get where he did.
He overcame a lot.
Yeah, and that's such an impactful story. That's the one. When people ask me about SEAL books, that's the one that I recommend most often, just because of that adversity, and it's going to apply to. Because you're going to get hit in life, no matter what. You don't have to be in the SEAL teams. You don't have to go in the military. Like you're going to get hit hard, and to read about somebody, regardless. In this case, it happens to be a SEAL, but overcoming what he did. I think it's
that's why I think that book is so good. It's more about the person than the stupid pin, which, by the way, you can buy on the internet or any Navy exchange for like $1.50. So
inflation, it might be a little more.
It might be a little bit more, right? But it can't always, at the end of the day, be about that. That's why, again, I think that book is so good because it's more about that guy and what he had to accomplish to actually achieve that.
Yeah, Eric Blem is the author, and but yeah, I think each one is a little different. I was deployed when Extortion 17 happened. I knew a couple of those guys, obviously not like being at that command, but I was in Iraq at the time, and I got the knock on the door because we were on vampire hours, so I got the knock on the door. So it was light out, I remember.
Yeah.
And then just got up. I had like an hour sleep, went in, and just started kind of figuring out what was going on. But I didn't have to deal with anything back home with the people that I knew, and the people that were home had to go and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
That Keiko stuff you were talking about. That's, man, those families, so strong. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, that one was catastrophic. I had the CEO of the Special Operations Warrior Foundation on, and he had been a commanding officer at the 160th. He actually headed the investigation of extortion. It was cool to be able to talk with him a little bit offline as well. I mean, obviously, you don't want to talk about too many of the details on the air, but fucking hell, man. Yeah, I knew not well for all of them, but I knew everybody on that bird because that was my old troop.
Yeah.
You know, and Jonas was in
our Buzz class.
Was our
well through Hell Week. Through Hell Week anyway.
He was in my Buds class.
Yeah, then I couldn't.
We have to cover this every time we sit down. 212
got a little
historically the hardest Buds class that there's ever been.
I'm stretching my back right now.
Was my class. What class did you graduate, Jack?
I am stretching my back right now because I had to roll back class because you were getting so heavy.
Hey, if you make stupid decisions, right? So you graduated a much easier class that was in the summer months.
That's actually
mostly
true.
A correspondence course.
That's actually true because our Hell Week was good.
Fucking hated us.
They hated us. But the 212 Hell Week was legit, like cold. Like that was legit cold. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we got that cold Hell Week. That was awesome. I loved it because it is true. Like there's a difference. But
that first big boy that ran to the bell when we were in the service.
I remember we talk about him and people text me afterward and they're like, I know who you're talking about. And they say the name.
Yep.
But that was fantastic. I mean, seeing that happen, I mean, it's terrible to talk about, but I was like,
is it though?
This thing's working.
Is it though?
This program is working.
Yeah.
I mean, terrible from a perspective of like, you don't want anybody to fail at anything or quit
or beautiful from the perspective that the curriculum that had been applied for the 30 years previously worked. And let's be honest, if you were that guy, and I have no judgment of that guy or anybody who attempts that program and decides to quit, I think it's safe to say that he was charismatic and boisterous before Hell Week, talking about these are the things that you need to do. This is how you're going to...
I'll never forget that brief he gave us.
on how to make it through Hell Week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. But it's beautiful that the curriculum worked. It probably saved his life.
Yeah, maybe.
Because that decision would have manifested itself somewhere else down the line. Because I don't know about you and your experience. They would say this in Buds. In the teams, you're going to be colder than you ever were here or more tired. And I'm sitting there thinking, what the fuck are you talking about? What world exists?
Are we going to put ourselves in the ocean for 5 days there on the verge of hypothermia?
What world exists where I'm going to be more cold? And then come to find out, I was
too. And where was it?
Afghanistan.
Oh man, Fallon, Nevada, in a bomb crater doing tasks. Like totally random place to do it. Like before September 11th.
Yeah.
So friggin' cold. That stands out in my mind. But anyway.
So colder than shit, and there's no bell there. You know, yours was at a training site. Mine was legitimately overseas. And that person, if they're going to get to that point and they're going to quit, if that didn't happen then, it would happen somewhere else. It's a beautiful thing that it worked the way that it did. And I think there's some poetic justice that the individual was as boisterous as they were, and the result was what it was.
Yeah. Kind of like the hate keeping you warm type of a thing. Yeah. But it works. I mean, there's a reason there's 80% give or take, whatever attrition each time. So point being, so 212 had
the hardest. Just call it the hardest Buds class that there's ever been.
It was very difficult. I have one. Yeah, it was very difficult. But as far as cold, it was fun. It was great. You love being in that. You're here where you want to be. Like I want to be tested here. I'm in the crucible. Is what I want to see if I can pass this test. And so you're in there. But then after Hell Week, when I went to 213, they had gotten it fairly not bad in that first. I think the instructors were tired. They were tired from beating
out of us.
Yeah, they were tired. So they had a pretty good first phase. But then when they got to second phase, when I joined them for dive phasing, those instructors knew how, not easy, none of it's easy, right? But they had it a little bit easier maybe than 212. So they turned it on the heat in dive phase. So I feel like, but then we got to third phase, and then it was, it was fine. It was all fine. It was all good. It was a great
212
experience.
got the screws the entire way through.
The whole way through? No one felt sorry for you?
No.
Oh, that was brutal. Well, and why do you think? Leadership. Remember?
Yeah.
The leadership.
I do.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he stayed in.
That was one of
but
my...
he went to staff jobs. He never did the job, I don't think.
Yeah.
So at least
we'll use stayed in air quotes.
Right.
But that was probably my
right?
first exposure of having nothing to do. We're talking rungs of the ladder above either where you or I were, but the shit was certainly cascading downhill. The impact that leadership can have on anybody underneath you. Wow, you're catastrophically failing. I don't even know about leadership, but you, sir, suck at it.
Yeah. I know enough to know this.
Yeah.
But
also, I'm tired of getting my
headcount?
shit kicked in. It's
that was, I think do we have 2 officers or just 1? Regardless.
2.
Or 3. No, we had 3. The tall, skinny guy.
Yep.
And then the kind of shorter
guy,
and then the class leader who was an 03 already from the regular Navy.
Correct.
Who came in. And that was our, I don't know, you can't really say singular point of failure. It certainly didn't help. Remember the head counts? We never got a head count ever.
Well, why would you want to?
Oh,
why would you want to be precise
goodness.
with the number of people that you have assigned to you in a military unit?
We couldn't get it. I remember sitting there, I'm standing by my raft or whatever it is, and you're like, how many people? 6, whatever. You count off, however they do that. 6, 12, and this one's another 8, and another one maybe has 9, another one's back to 4, whatever. You're getting the head count. And just, I'm not the greatest at math, but you got to figure this out. Your only job is to then turn around to the instructors and say 64 president accounted for. And then,
do you remember the instructors' faces when they would routinely give the wrong number?
I think they finally were like, it was like Apollo Creed in the first Rocky when Rocky gets back up and just totally beat down, and Apollo's like we made them tired, I think. Can't you guys get this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was rough.
You know who I want to get on the podcast?
That guy?
Ben Seifried.
Oh my gosh. You'd have to do it remote.
He's going to be out soon.
Yeah.
Really? I might have to travel to him.
Is that possible?
Oh, he'll be up for parole at some point.
There's no way. I thought it was life.
No.
Oh.
No. He and his wife rolled on each other.
Yeah.
I think they're since divorced. I would love to have a conversation with the honor man of my bud's class.
We're going to have to tell the story again. And it's actually giving more credence to the guest you had on 2 weeks ago who has a book out talking about some negative aspects of the SEAL community. But we'll have to tell it again, because I think there's a few more listeners from the first time that we talked about it.
With Ben?
Yeah. Because people are like, what are they talking about? They're going to have to go sift through a bunch of podcasts to find it.
Yeah, or you could just go to Google and put in Ben Seifried, Navy SEAL murderer. And
don't forget that last one.
Yeah,
that last piece.
And what you're going to find is, I think he was still in, or he might have recently gotten out. I'm unclear on that, but he
just got out. Maybe we shouldn't talk about this then.
No, of the military.
No.
When this happened.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you meant out of prison. Now we might want to be like, well, I don't know if I want him knocking on the door.
I'd be fine with that. I have guns everywhere. And he probably technically can't own one anymore.
Oh, thank goodness. So he probably won't. He was quiet. I think.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, he's real quiet in a creepy lure couples back to your apartment kind of way, induce an argument, and then fucking murder them and cut them up with a Spyderco in a bathtub, dispose of them in grocery store waste containers, because he used to work at one, so he knew the rapidity that they would come and get the garbage.
Oh, I don't think I knew that part.
Yeah, so that's how he knew to dump them there. And then here's how you really want to get caught, right? Here is,
This is the best part.
Here's a masterclass in being a criminal.
This is the best
what you
part.
want to do,
right? Take notes, anybody out there.
Is in the middle of the night, find a Hooters.
Yeah.
Break into that Hooters to steal T-shirts.
Yeah.
And when the cops come and they go through your wife's purse, make sure that the fucking identification card of the woman you killed is in there with the Spyderco with pieces of skin and hair still on it.
Yeah.
Masterclass.
Yeah. That one's wrapped up pretty quick.
Honor man, Bud's Class 212. Man,
do you think his name's still on that plaque that has all the names, or do you think they put a line through it, or they?
It is still on the plaque because somebody sent me a picture not too long ago of the roster of our names.
Interesting.
Seaman Apprentice Stumpf is on there. Not a big deal.
Hey, pretty good. Pretty good.
Jack Carr's not on there.
Well,
which is a big deal because couldn't hang.
Hell, yeah. But is he on that? There's a board that has all the honormen.
That's a good question. I don't know.
And it's like an engraved thing that's in like the main room when you first walk in. I think to the left, there's that little room we can watch a movie for all the tours that we give at Buds too. Anyway, we can talk about that later too. But
I don't know if his name is still on.
Yeah, I'd be curious.
Can you imagine that conversation though? If he would agree to a podcast? I mean, I only have one question. It's like, hey, what the fuck, man?
I think you should start it off with Hooters t-shirts. Like Hooters t-shirts. You don't even have to be a question. It's just 2 words.
I mean, if you don't know how to write a nonfiction book, or if you don't know how to write a fictional book, just use that as start there.
I gotta weave that into a novel. Have somebody get caught that like rolls on somebody else that has a little piece of this puzzle or conspirry somehow attached. He doesn't even know, but he gets caught because they decide. It's like, what was that movie with Woody Harrelson where they go on the rampage across the country?
Oh, damn it!
You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So that
Californication or something like that.
But anyway, that's why we need somebody to look it up.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, nice. But I picture it kind of like that.
Yeah,
just oh man. But I'm guessing that his lawyers wouldn't want him to be on a podcast.
You can't be tried for the same crime twice.
It's a good point. Maybe there's some other stuff you'd uncover.
God, I hope so. Yeah. And then right at the end, it's just
dun, dun, dun. Yeah. So anyway, that was our Buzz experience, and that was very interesting. So he never, but to be clear, he was never a SEAL. He was in SEAL qualification training. I don't know. Not gotten his bird.
I think he might have gotten his bird.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I shouldn't say to be clear then, because I really didn't know.
I was watching.
Oh, the other 2 guys. Those were the ones while we were in Buds.
Turner and Brown?
Yes.
They were convicted of rape.
Oh.
And murder, right?
I think
it was tied.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think murder.
It was not good. I think the murder was, before the murder was rape, though.
Okay.
Because I believe it was a female victim.
Yes, I think so. But that was while we were in Buds. I think an article came out about it or something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have known. There's no internet. I mean, there was an internet, I guess, but I don't think I even had internet. No, I did not have internet back then.
I was in selection, and there was a cork board with like articles, and I was walking out one day, and I was like, turned around, and I'm like, I know that dude. And it was the article about Seifried.
Wow.
That's how I found out about it.
That's crazy. But the Turner and Brown one, that's the one that I was thinking of. There was no, because we were in
Buds
before
our
in 97,
time.
And so it happened right before then.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway. But those are the guys I was thinking of that didn't get their trident yet. They were still in SQT.
Yeah, I think Seifried made it through.
Just for people listening, the SEAL teams have done a lot of good things over the last 20 years, 30 years.
I think they've done a lot of really great things.
Yeah,
but I also, to kind of weave in, you said you were listening to the podcast with Matthew Cole on the way up. I think I opened talking with him. I think he had some swings and misses, and he had some hits. The SEAL teams have done some amazing things, and there are also problems that come from that occupation and that level of direct exposure to combat for that long of a period of time. And I don't think either of those extremes paint the community extremely well. And I am actually, I don't know about what your thoughts are. I don't have any problem with transparency with the burrs or the blemishes of the SEAL community at all. I actually think it helps maintain the integrity with the people that I felt like at least we were there serving. But to only focus on those things, or to only focus on things that went right, I think it does a disservice in both directions.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Like, I've been reading his stuff for a while now. I guess 9 years or so since some of the first articles came out, specifically focused on SEALs and people that have made mistakes in the SEAL teams. And it just always seemed strange to me to make that the thing you want to do with your life is to shine a light on that, whatever percentage it is, with all the amazing things on people who stood up to defend their country after it was attacked, went down range over and over and over again. And in 20 years, who hasn't made a mistake at something over a 20-year period? But then to go search those out and then publish them and put names in and publish a book about it and make money off it, okay, that's fine. That's great. But it just seems odd to me to make that your life's mission.
Who am I to judge anybody's life's mission?
Well,
my issue is,
I just know that there's a lot of people that I know, particularly from one of the articles in The Intercept, that people can look it up. But and they'll know exactly what I'm talking about if they look it up, if they know anything about me or read my books or whatever. But I just hurt too many people that I know.
Yeah. There are also some people, though, I think that need to be pulled into the light a little bit. But again, it's if you compile a book and it's only those things, and you either directly or indirectly say that this is a descriptive and encapsulating of an entire community, I think it does a huge disservice.
Yeah.
I think the honesty and transparency, you have to find balance, as I guess what I'm saying. And also, I don't know of a single occupation or community that would likely be able to stand up to the level of scrutiny that his book went into to include his own.
Yeah.
So if we're all willing to accept and acknowledge that, I think that's a good starting point. But you'll run out of years in your life trying to write those books about each one of those communities, whether it be lawyers, doctors, the clergy.
Sure.
You know, I mean, it's like, how deep do you want to go? If you spend your time looking in the shadows, guess what you find?
Yeah.
Shit that's in the shadows.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, at the same time, I'm conflicted about some of it because it's because just like you said, there's issues that need to be dealt with, and if it's not getting dealt with, then how do you? And I'm not talking about disciplinary type stuff. I'm talking about, you know, recurring combat deployments. I'm talking about alcohol plus Ambien plus sleep cycles overseas, vampire hours, being awake all night, sleeping during the day when you can, over and over again, burying friends, traumatic brain injury, all of those things, PTSD, all of that together in a caustic cocktail, because senior level military leaders and politicians decided to commit you to Afghanistan, let's say, for 20 years. Okay, I think that if you're going to take your powers as a journalist, maybe focus on some of those senior level leaders that put these guys in these positions, because there has been zero accountability, much more accountability in the SEAL teams for people messing up than there ever has been for a politician or a senior level military leader with stars on their collar who kept asking Congress for more money, more troops, and kept us engaged in Afghanistan really after December of 2001, January, February 2002 timeframe. They kept over and over again committing us downrange, and this is a little bit of what you get. So zero accountability. They all failed up except for one guy in like 2009, and I'm going to mess up his name. There's a great book, the Afghanistan Papers, and a lot of these guys were coming back, and it's like 20 years of interviews with guys coming back from Afghanistan in particular and getting interviewed, thinking that what they were being interviewed about was going to stay classified. And
oh, daddy.
Yeah. And so what he does, Craig Whitlock, this journalist, he juxtaposes these interviews that are not classified with what they were saying to their troops, to Congress, to the American people.
I'm sure they were identical,
large,
though.
180 out, obviously, in a lot of cases. So that part right there. And only one of them, one guy in 2009, I'm forgetting his name right now, he's like, hey, he didn't even say anything too bad. He said something along the lines of, this isn't going as well as we thought it was going to. Maybe we should ask a few questions. It was something like that. Yeah. And then quietly, a few months later, he has moved out and somebody has moved back in to keep this thing going. So for me, that accountability, those senior level leaders, non-existent. Much more accountability at junior level, at tactical levels, particularly in our experience in the SEAL teams, than there ever was with those people who committed a country to war.
Yeah, how would you hold? Let's
fired.
Well, let's rewind the clock to 2000. You know, Bush is in office. He commits the country to both Afghanistan and to Iraq. People can debate and argue all they want to about the reasonings, pros, cons, legitimacy, not. 20 years later, he's been out of office now for 16 years. How do you hold people accountable once they're out of the office that they were holding, that committed those forces, and then passed it? You know what I mean? Like, is there even a mechanism to do so?
Well, elections for Congress, for people that are allocating budgets and all that sort of thing. Then we have think tanks. We have people working at think tanks who then go over to work in government, and they're recommending the same things in government, in the think tank that they're now making money from at, let's say, a Raytheon or a General Dynamics or the Harris, whatever it is. And then politicians just like this that are being lobbied by those same companies. So that's all a part of it. But it's really those senior level military leaders who kept committing us over and over, asking for more troops. I mean, maybe they're in an untenable position. What are they supposed to do? They're there for 2 years or 3 years? I don't know. You have Petraeus, who really, I mean, he changed the direction of a gigantic bureaucracy known as the United States Army and the United States military writ large, and changed tactics from that level, from the strategic level. He changed tactics on the battlefield to make better or for worse, deal with the counterinsurgency. That's no small feat to do that. But how about take another breath and figure out how long are we going to do this? What is the benefit of doing this for the next 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, or 2 years, 3 years? But that's their responsibility. Ours is to get to the target and to get our guy out in the middle of the night, take him back for tactical questioning, whatever it is, and then go out and get another target. And if we mess up on that, then we are held accountable. Yeah. First by our peers, and if something really goes wrong, we're sent home. It's an easier metric. That's because you have some, well, I guess at what point in Afghanistan can you point to where, okay, what are we doing here now? We're going after the drugs and poppy fields? Okay, I guess that's fueling an insurgency. Okay, now what? Now we're moving into some more counterinsurgency type stuff. Oh, wait, now we're not doing night raids because we're upsetting some people. Okay, we're doing some call-outs now. Okay, fine. Now we have to take how many of our host nation forces on target? All right. Okay, what are we doing? We're still doing the same thing. I mean, we had an opportunity. That
only covers up to 2005. What about the other 15?
So I'm saying in 2001, I forget the exact numbers, so I'll just say about 100 special operators and CIA guys on the ground with some host nation forces, Tora Bora, Bin Laden's there. And what do? They ask for more troops. They ask for 10th Mountain. They ask for Marines. They ask for Rangers to come in here, block these passes. We need to flood this place right now. And no, so there's an easy one to point to right there. Who says no? Okay, let's go up the chain and find out where that no came from. Guess what? You're fired. That decision right there essentially committed us to the next 20 years at war.
Well, we can say that 20 years down the road, they may not have known that it was going to commit you to 20 years. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like, what's the mechanism to, like, that dude, whoever made that decision is probably in a fucking walker right now. Like, you put him in prison?
Well, I'm saying at the time.
I don't think anybody could understand the gravity of that decision at the time.
Those 100 guys on the ground sure did, because they requested those forces.
Sure, but saying that decision, which I agree with you, helped commit us to the next 20 years in that country, we didn't fucking know we were going to be there for 20 years.
Right, we all thought we were going to miss it.
Yeah.
Like we weren't there right then.
So that's what
we
saying.
Thought we were going to miss it.
By the time we realized.
Guess what happened?
But by the time, so let's say 10 years down the road, you're like, oh shit. And you start looking retroactively and you get to that decision point. Do you punish the guy 10 years later? That's what I'm saying. What's the mechanism? I don't know if one exists or it's even possible. I agree with you holding them accountable. I've said this many times.
How about what more recent? How about August of last year? How about giving up Bagram and going and putting our troops in a tactically disadvantageous position, giving up a tactically advantageous position, and then having 13 U.S. servicemen and women coming home in body bags? And people don't even hear about the ones that can't walk anymore, that are missing limbs.
Yeah. I feel like that decision was driven largely, though, from civilians in the political spectrum versus senior military officers.
So what's the responsibility of those senior military officers?
I've never been at that rank. I don't know how much.
I'll tell you.
Well, I was going to say, because I don't know how much control they actually have.
Yeah.
If the fucking White House is directing the Battle Space Commander, for lack of a better word, in Afghanistan to do that, and he says no, and they fire him, replace him with somebody who is going to do that. You know what I mean? Like, you tell me.
It sends a message. You have that senior level military leader. I don't agree with this. Because you have a responsibility to those troops. It's not to the commander in chief.
I agree with you, but I think on that one, if people from the White House were forcing that, it's people from the White House who should be held accountable for that. Whoever was driving that decision. That's
why my books are so therapeutic, because then I get to take James Reece, Navy SEAL sniper extraordinaire, and go gut some people and stack some bodies.
But in my mind, that needs to bridge the military-civilian gap. And if those people are driving that because it's a policy or a promise that was made, absent the feedback that they're getting on the ground, and if I was in that position, and they told me to, I would say no. I would sacrifice my career because
absolutely.
So
that's your responsibility.
So that's what I'm saying. I agree with that. So you'll get axed. Your career will be over. They'll bring somebody in. They're going to do it anyway. But when it comes to whose fucking head should be on a platter, you need to go all the way up that chain of command to the people in whatever office are driving that, and they need to be held accountable.
Yeah, so that's the interesting part, is that elections hold those people accountable in today's day and age.
Yeah, but by what? By not paying them to do their elected official job anymore? That doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing punitive about that. They're probably like, thank God I'm going to make 50x the amount of money on the speaking tour and writing a fucking book.
Yeah, there is that. But those senior level military leaders, they just keep failing upward. Like that is, I mean, what lesson does that, like, what did that guy getting fired, that general being fired in 2009 for speaking out, not even in a way that was extraordinary, but just mentioning that things might not be going as well as we think they're going here. What message did that send?
Single person on the ground could have given you the exact. Yeah.
That's what you have. And you have these guys. So you have the Marine E2 on the ground, like looking around and then seeing somebody in front of Congress once again. And you can take those those
testimonies,
those testimonies, those statements, and you can pick them. You can take the year off and they're all the same. Like they are really all essentially exactly the same for 20 years, which should tell us a lot. But those senior level military leaders have failed up time and time again. And that has told the people behind them that are essentially, as you know, politicians in uniform at a certain point, what they need to do to make that next star. And maybe it comes from a good place and they say, when I get to, I still have to stay in to make a difference. Hey, but when you're at the top and there's nowhere else to go and you know that this is wrong and you're putting your troops at risk in a way that's not, it's fairly black and white here on this one. Like very few things in life are that black and white. But this one was pretty close.
It's like the Master Chief that won't push back. And you're like, hey, man, you can't make E10.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, I wrote an article about it called Fire the Generals. And I put that out there. A couple people got upset with me, but most people, obviously. And this is why you had so many people with no background in the military, because you don't need it. With no, I've never read a book about military history or tactics, looking at what was going on in Afghanistan at the end and saying, this doesn't seem quite right.
Yeah.
Because you don't need any of those things. What you need is common sense. Karl von Clausewitz said the most important attribute of a combat leader is common sense. And anybody, no matter what their profession, is looking at Afghanistan and saying, this isn't making sense. The way we're leaving here at the end and putting our troops in this position here, it doesn't seem, wouldn't it have been smarter to leave from Bagram perhaps? I mean, I'm not a military historian or strategist, but that's because you don't need to be to see that one. So anyway, I've just disappointed in our senior level leadership, and I have been for a very, very long time. So you can tell I'm getting worked up, which is why the books are so therapeutic.
I get it. Yeah. I've said many times, I wish that I could have been a fly on a wall at these strategic level conversations where these decisions are made, whether or not to commit American capital, blood, sweat, and energy and effort. I would just love to hear how they talk about it. Because it's not going to be them. It's not the royal. They're not going to be involved in the decisions that they're making from an.
Well, they're not standing at the gate for 10 hours.
That's what I'm saying. And so I would just be.
Well, hordes of people are trying to push by you.
Yeah,
with
I'd
SVS.
be fascinated to hear how it's discussed.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I'll ever get the opportunity to do so. But my concern is that they talk about it with far less care and concern than the people who actually are going to put their boots on the ground, because they're so fucking detached.
Yeah. I mean, there's that detachment, I think. You're right. I haven't really thought too much about this part before, but I thought about it a little bit, is who stays in, like who gets to those positions and why. And we still have that pyramid, and maybe it's changed now. I don't know. Maybe we're doing things more like Google and doing different kinds of evaluations and fit reps.
Let's assume we're not.
I think it's probably safe to assume that if you looked at a fit rep from like 1910, it's probably similar to one from today. But there's a pyramid. And you're being evaluated by the person above you, not by your peers, not by those below you, most importantly, but the person above you through that optic. And that is your eval as you work your fit rep, as you work your way up this pyramid until you're at the very top. So essentially, you're trained to please the person in front of you, and you're
at a certain rank for sure. When your career switches from being, I would say, operational to administrative.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you hit that that 06 rank, and then you're like, do I want to be a flag officer? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, well, what are you prepared to do to get there?
What rank did you get out at?
04.
Did you have any desire to start climbing the old rungs?
Never. And this is what I love. And this is, and I heard in your podcast, and you were critical of Marcinko on there. And I understand.
He's out of his fucking mind.
I understand some of that. But what I got from that book was the enlisted officer dynamic and having time in as an enlisted person and then becoming an officer and not having to worry. Never entering the calculus of making that next rank. It never entered my calculus because, I mean, it never would have anyway, I don't think, because that's just how I'm wired. But I also had that enlisted time, which meant that it didn't matter.
Yeah, same here. I had 12 years enlisted, 5 officer. The odds, well, first off, everybody in the military would have to be killed for me to make flag because an E1 would be more likely to get selected over me. I never had any aspirations.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatsoever.
Yep.
I got out as an 03E, which was absolutely perfect. Mm-hmm. For clarity, I wasn't critical of Marcinko. He was just clearly out of his fucking mind. All right?
Yeah, he came along at a time and place, though, where he created that command.
Would never take any of that from him, and none of that erases that he's clearly out of his fucking mind.
Maybe you had to be to do that.
Probably.
Charlie Beckwith and him around similar time frames, creating those 2 incredible commands that have done amazing things.
You're going to need unique people to spearhead that for sure.
Yeah, especially when you have the entire rest of the military, for the most part, that doesn't want you to accomplish what you're doing. To include those above you in the chain of command, like it's an interesting animal. Both of those, the creation of both those commands are fascinating.
What I love is that one was created for hostage rescue on an airplane. One was created for hostage rescue on a cruise boat, neither of which has ever happened.
Yeah. The training is pretty cool for both.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it is ever going to happen. But the fact that they've been able to do and change and morph and just truly defines like the Swiss Army knife. Like, okay, today we need a little bit of a scissors. And here's a Phillips head. And, well, we got these little shitty tweezers, but we can get this thing. It's amazing to me, the malleability of those organizations.
Yeah.
When it goes back to me, leadership, which we've talked about. And then what I don't think a lot of people realize is the critical thinking skills that the officers and enlisted have.
Yeah.
Not equally applied.
Yeah.
I'm always very clear about this point. I served with some retards, some real morons, and some geniuses.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where I'd put you.
Well, I really did.
I mean, you are a published author, so maybe more towards the moron side.
Well, appreciate it. I'll take it. I'll take that as it's intended. But I did like that, having that like enlisted experience. Cause I think some guys come in and they're going to be an officer and they know they're getting out. They're like, I'm doing my 6 years and I'm going to get out. I have no ambition to sit in an ops chair. I want to do this time, and what kind of
I don't think I can blame them for that, having sat in an ops chair.
I think that's great. So they're not making decisions based on wanting to be in that ops chair, doing a good job for their XO and CO.
Because they can already see the horizon.
They already know. Yep. After my platoon commander, or maybe go to that command on the East Coast, and then after that, I'm done. Like this, I no desire to be an administrative staff person, even for a fraction of a second. And that was me. I did not have any ambition to do any of that. So some guys can see that. Others can also come in the exact same time as an 01, as an 02, and be thinking about being an admiral, maybe a politician one day, something along those lines. So maybe their calculus for making decisions is different than the guy that's like, I just want to crush it for my guys right here, crush this mission, do the best I can for these guys right here, pass along whatever lessons I can so the next person does it better than I did it for them, and then I'm going to go off and go to law school or whatever they're going to do.
Such crazy different optics between those two people.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And which one do you want to be? Which platoon do you want to be in?
I can tell you my answer to that.
So yeah, that's fairly obvious. So it's interesting. I mean, just like anything else in life, any industry, any company, there's going to be issues. People there for different reasons and have different motivations. But overall, I feel like I was very fortunate over my time in the military. I learned from the bad officers that I had, or bad chiefs that I had, and bad's obviously a subjective word. But if you're in the E5 Mafia, you can tell
for sure.
So I took some great lessons, worked with some great people, and then I'm very, but I also knew what I wanted to do when I got out. So I was on a clear path to never be an admiral, and to get out after 04, after platoon or troop commander, because that's the last time you're ever going to tactically lead somebody on the battlefield again, and then move on. So and I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I feel extremely fortunate for that.
What was of all the schools you went to while you were in, which one was your favorite?
Ooh, so the trip was Kodiak. It's not really a school; it's just a course.
Cold weather facility.
Yeah.
Was Barclow running it?
I went up there when Barclow was running it, but he was at Team 5 with us when we first went. So when I first went up there, I don't know who was running it up there. It was just a cool, just the terrain. I love that, that ocean and salt water hitting rocks and moving right up into just really just the thick green brush, and then going up into glaciers, and just I love that terrain because it's so formidable and so unforgiving. So I did love that one. But school wise, driving, had a sniper and driving. Yeah, driving was
sniper's
fun.
mine.
Yeah,
I hadn't thought about the driving one.
It's just fun. Like sniper, there's stress and there's attrition
I just
and
love
all
the
that
skill
stuff
and the art behind it.
As did I. Yes. But there was stress. There was never any stress on the driving because it's just
because
fun.
it wasn't really pass fail.
No.
It's like, if you jack this car up, we got another one over here. So
derelict vehicles going
get a little
around.
heavy on that gas pedal, if you will.
Awesome. Going around at night on nods, doing that. Remember like an Indian run in cars as you're going like this back and forth between them, trying to get to the front, and then the guys would come by and you try to pit them as they're going by, shine surefires in their face because they're on nods. And
what do you think the actual risk assessment looked like for that evolution?
Probably nothing would it actually.
I was going to say, I feel like they might have glossed over a few
things.
Maybe just to lower it down a bit.
Those were fun. So that was probably my favorite school, was going to the BSR, and then I did one at Blackwater. There were a few. There's a bunch of them out there. The one I really want to go to, though, that I didn't get to go to, that our mobility guys started going to, and people from your command have been to quite a bit, is O'Neill Racing, New Hampshire.
Yep.
That rally racing stuff, is rally racing drivers are the best drivers in the world, essentially, because there's so much different terrain that you're dealing
Glover's
with.
getting into that shit.
He's getting into it. Yeah. Mike Glover at Fieldcraft is crushing it out there.
God, I hope he wrecks his car.
I think he probably has wrecked a few in training. You have to, I think. But the guys that went to that course and went to like all the driving courses out there, the ones that I talked to anyway, said that O'Neill Racing was their favorite one, that rally racing. So I haven't been to that one, but I'd love to go get that skill set.
I've already have this figured out how you can go. Your character in one of your books is going to need to go through one of these. So, of course, for research, you'll need a wingman. Of course, I'll make myself
Come on
available.
out. A lot of tax write-offs for this research.
I think for me, sniper school, maybe it wasn't my favorite school, but I think it was the one that had the most operational impact.
Yeah. From
understanding terrain, concealment, dead space.
Yeah. The dead space was a big one.
And the long-range marksmanship, I have just always enjoyed.
Nice.
Not that I'm great at it by any stretch, but it's just fun.
Amazing. What year did you go?
2000.
I did 2000 also. So I did summer 2000. There's 2 a year, right?
Maybe I went in 99. I don't know.
Maybe I went 99.
I'd have to look at my certificate.
Was there 1 a year?
If I could find it.
Yeah.
I think there was 2.
2 a year. Yeah. So I did Kalinga first, and then stocking. And then what did people get? They got the
TMU, the names. It's I was going to say West Nile, but it's definitely not West Nile. It's Valley
Fever. Yeah. Valley Fever.
Yeah.
Guys were getting this like dust in the lungs type of thing. We got pretty serious for a few people.
Yeah, but we were camping in tents on manure.
For a long time. It wasn't like a week.
Time.
It was like multiple weeks.
I think
70
it was
some days.
6 weeks of shooting and then 6 weeks of stalking, where we were standing out at Billy Macon, which is obviously better conditions.
But not by much. I think people actually got Valley Fever out there
indoors
as well.
Air conditioned.
Remember cleaning that place
the
first time? Who was the guy's name that looked like the person from Toy Soldiers? Remember that guy? He had like the Marine Corps haircut.
Steve. I'm not going to say his last name.
I don't even remember his last name.
Yeah,
but I remember being in the with a toothbrush in the cracks on the floor, like cleaning out those cracks. That was interesting. It was fun.
Stalking at an island is not easy.
No, you learn a lot. But
like, we're going to put this table out here in 800 yards with no concealment of any kind, and you guys have fun. Get to 150.
Yeah, I tried it during the summer. The summer was insane. I remember the summer out there, and I remember seeing this rock move, and I looked, and it was a rattlesnake, but it was exactly the same color as that rock. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember that. But yeah, that was fun. I learned a ton doing that. Learned a ton at sniper school. I loved starting with that M14 and then working your way up to 7.62, that Remington bolt action 700 that they had from the custom shop there, and then one of the Robar arms at 300 one mag, and then that 50. But working your way up and having those different tests for each one of those, that was awesome.
Favorite long range platform?
300, just because it was what we used so much in school,
and it'll knock the shit right out of you.
It will. It will. We took it in a job, so we took in almost every sniper weapon system that we had available at the time, which was the Mark 11, the Mark 12, our 300 Win mags, and our 50s. And because it was such a long campaign, and we had that logistics train, you didn't have to carry all that stuff with you. You could move forward on foot. We'd go across the street and take push the enemy back a little bit, and then move up into these sniper positions and all that stuff. But your 50, your 300, like all these things came with you. So you had a choice depending on what the enemy was doing.
That's bullshit.
It was.
My choice was, what do you want in your backpack?
Yeah.
And I cannot bring myself to carry a 50 cal.
50. Yeah.
When each bullet weighs, I'm going to say 7 pounds.
Yeah.
It's like, in addition to what is the weight of that weapon? It's got to be close to 50 pounds.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
It's heavy.
I'm like, no, I'll take this 301 mag with as many boxes as I can carry, and I'll be just fine.
Yeah. No, I shot that thing out there, and it was it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was wild.
301 mag is by far my favorite caliber, and I'm sure that there's better ones out there. People hit me up all the time
Yeah,
for
300 PRC. I shot one of those recently. That'll be my next one, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
I just stick with the old 300.
Yeah, I mean it's only once you already have a bunch of 300s and then you want to like do other things and it's,
Jesus.
Why not?
First world problems, Jack.
Sorry.
It's only when you're like me, a celebrated author who has multiple safes full of 300 Win Mags, and you go to 300 PRC.
I should have just dug an underground safe room. That would have been cheaper than buying all the safes. I think that's probably the way to go.
Oh,
just do that. Yeah.
All right, dude, tell me about your book.
Well, we can get back to that first question that you asked. The difference.
Are we still on the first question?
I think so.
Okay, good.
First question.
We're really knocking them out.
Yeah. So the differences between the book and the film, and I brought up First Blood, and then we went off and we talked about people getting hacked into small pieces and Hooters T-shirts and all the rest of it. But the initial intent of talking about First Blood was the difference between the book and the movie and how good they both were. So I knew going in that things were going to be different because you're telling a story visually, and that's by the medium of that platform, you are telling a story in a different way.
Yeah.
So there are definitely differences, but what was important to me, Chris Pratt, Antoine Fuqua, the director, David DiGilio, the showrunner, was to keep that dark, gritty, primal nature of the novel in the series.
Was there pushback from Amazon on that aspect?
There may have been a little pushback. So on a couple of different things, but what was great is they came around every time. So every time me and Chris and Antoine got together and figured out how we were going to make an argument for something.
Did they just want more explanation?
No. They were a little uncomfortable with a couple things, a couple of the violent scenes.
Okay.
And in my head, I'm like, man, do you not watch your own network? There's a couple violent things out there. There's a couple of violent things out there, but they were fantastic. Like I cannot say enough good things about Amazon at those executive levels. They went with us on every single thing that we wanted to put in there or take out. So I think we got a product that I can't blame Hollywood if nobody likes this thing, because being involved in it and having it be different, but it's different in a way that makes sense. So we added a psychological component. So it's it's a revenge thriller, but it also has this psychological thriller component that isn't really in the book, but really plays well when you're looking at something visually.
Yeah.
So I love that. Chris crushes it as James Reece. Could not have done a better job. Everybody on that cast, absolutely incredible. There'll be characters though that are missing. So if somebody takes this and is like, oh, that's different, and that's different, that's different, that's one way to do it, and you're probably not going to.
Don't do that.
Probably not going to enjoy it.
Too much time on your hands if you're doing that shit.
Exactly. But even for people that are fans of the book, there are surprises in there that stick with the theme and the characters, and so I think so you'll have some surprises. So it'll be fun to watch, even if you've already read the book.
Yeah.
And then hopefully it'll bring a bunch of people to the book that wouldn't have been fans or readers otherwise. But it's I could not be more thrilled with how it turned out. Everybody on set just crushed it.
When's it come out?
July 1st. All 8 episodes dropping at once.
Why would you do that?
I think people like to binge. So it's the binge.
I know, that's
thing.
the problem. They have like day jobs they need to go to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, during COVID, it would have been, we could leave the house or whatever. But yeah, now people are back at work. But it's a Friday, though.
So you put the entire book into 8 episodes. Are they roughly an hour long, or do you have a little bit more flexibility with Amazon?
Well, I thought we'd have some flexibility, but we didn't. So 1 hour each. But what that does is force you. It's kind of like Twitter having a certain number of characters. It forces you to really think about what you're putting in there.
Your economy of focus.
Yeah. So the first episode really is an hour and 45 minutes, and then we edited it down to an hour. So there's 45 minutes.
Dude, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So that part, and loving the first episode, I was like, oh, I don't know what we're possibly going to cut from this thing. And then we started just slicing away, and now I think it's a much better product at the end, having put that thought in there, knowing that we have to make this 60 minutes exactly.
When do they make the decision to continue the visual storytelling of the subsequent books?
This is a very good question. So it's I don't know yet. I try not to be too overeager about some of these things. So I
probably have to see how it does.
Exactly. Probably see how it does. I can tell you that it has tested off the charts with test audiences, which is great news. So I think it all comes down to if Chris wants to do it. And if that's the yes, then the next step is how big is Amazon's checkbook to get him to do it. So we'll see. I think both those two things right there are the two most important pieces.
I feel like the first one if he enjoyed it, would probably be a yes. The second one, who knows?
Yeah, I think we're good on that next one, on that first one, that he wants to do it again, I think. But you never know. There's other projects. There's somebody like that. There's so much demand. So who knows really? But I know he had a great time doing it, and we all had a blast doing it with him, and he crushes. So so if Amazon wants to stroke that check, then maybe there'll be a season 2, and if not, then hey, there's always the book.
I think it's ended up happening with 6 for the History Channel. They just didn't want to stroke the check when it came to season 3.
Yeah.
So I was involved in 0 of those decisions, and I could be talking out of my ass, but I think that's what it was.
Yeah, so I need to watch season 2 of 6. I only watched season 1, and then life got too busy, but I did a good job with it.
Yeah.
And you had other SEALs on there too, right? Was there another SEAL attached? You don't have to name him.
As an advisor,
yeah.
Not anybody that the viewer would see. Did you have some ex-team guys?
A lot. Yeah, it was great. So they're trying to figure out like who's going to play this.
But are they good actors?
Yeah, especially Jared. So Jared Shaw is the reason that this whole thing came about. And Jared Shaw was a instructor at Buds when I was there as the OPSO as I was getting out. And I found out he was getting out of the military and just ran into him on the grinder one day and said, hey man, stop by the office. And my office was right there on the grinder at Buds. And I heard you're getting out, stop by sometime, we'll talk about it. And so we sat down, came in there, we talked for a while, and I introduced him to some people in the private sector. I talked about, talked with him about transitioning out, and that was it. And then he calls me in November of 2017, so a few months before the first book comes out. And first he asked me if I remembered him, and of course I did. And then he asked me if I remember what I did for him in the SEAL teams, and I did not. And he said, well, you sat me down in your office. You're the only person that did that. You're the only person that cared enough to sit down, talk to me about getting out of the military, introduce me to people in the private sector. And I sincerely appreciated it. And I've never been able to say thank you. And so I just wanted to call and say thank you. And this is years later. And I said, no problem, man. How's it going? And he said, well, it's going great, but I heard you have a book coming out. And I said, yeah, it's coming out in a few months. And he said, would you mind sending it to me? I'd like to give it to a friend of mine. And I was like, yeah, no problem. Who's that? And he said, Chris Pratt. So had I not sat him down in the office, had he not been getting out of the military, Chris Pratt would never even know that this book existed. So he gave it to Chris.
How did you meet Chris?
Chris came down to Buds when they were doing Zero Dark 30, the movie. So Chris plays a SEAL in Zero Dark 30.
Yes, he does.
Along with another actor.
I want to talk to you guys about this investment stuff when we get back.
Is that what it is?
Some line in the helicopter, yeah.
Yeah.
I was listening to a fucking Tony Robbins audiobook in the helicopter.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Something like that.
I gotta watch it. I only saw that movie once, but
it's one time too many.
But they run the obstacle course. They do the thing that people do when they come to Buds, and he sees Jared, and Jared's wearing this hat that has a certain symbol on it that I'll tell you what it is later. Not that it's bad or anything, but and so they started talking about that hat, and they bonded, and now they're best buddies. And Jared wanted to be an actor, so he gets out, and he's had these different roles here and there.
That was going to be my question.
So good.
If he had been doing acting lessons and acting. Okay.
He's taking acting lessons every day, and he's good. People will see it's not just someone who used to be a SEAL playing a SEAL. He's legit, like great actor, and he not only did that, he acted, he produced, and advised. So he was there every single day. So without him on set, without Ray Mendoza on set, who's a former SEAL, as well, that has War Office Productions in LA that works on military-themed films, and then Max Adams, who's a former Ranger who also produced, wrote, and was a second unit director. Without those three right there on set each and every day for 7 months, it would probably be a vastly different show. It would have a lot more Hollywood in there.
7 months for the 8 episodes. Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But those guys crush. And then we have a SEAL platoon. So makes sense. Maybe we'll hire some SEALs because they're actually going to be doing SEAL stuff. Yeah. So you don't have to teach them how to clear a corner or do all this other stuff. They've kind of got that down. So we had it was like a reunion. I walk on, and there's all like COVID protocols in place too. So the COVID police were there trying to keep everybody apart. And I show up for the first time, and I'm there with Ryan Sangster, who's I went to Iraq with, and he gets on the A-dub in the series, and he's just crushing on the A-dub. But we're like, bro. So it was like this reunion of the COVID police. Were like, losing their minds, 6 feet. So most everybody in that first episode, except for Chris and Patrick Schwarzenegger, are actual SEALs. Or were actual SEAls. So that was pretty cool to see those guys.
If it is anything like Act of Valor, I'm going to slap you in the face so hard.
So they're just
if they have Act of Valor acting, I am going to cold cock you.
Yeah, for those guys, it's not really acting because it's it's just that first episode, and they just play SEAls in there. But then Jared, he's there throughout. I don't want to ruin it how he he comes back and how he's incorporated in. But he's an amazing job. He impresses me as a human being, and then his acting is just great. So I hope he's in a lot more stuff after this.
That's awesome.
Guy. Yeah.
So that's book 1 of what? 5? Is this 5?
This is 5. This is 5 in the blood right here. And I'm shocked that you're not testing for a next jiu-jitsu belt. Is brown next? Is that what you're going for next?
Yeah, but there's not really any testing.
No, there's just. I thought they did like a thing where they send in fresh people after you.
No, so what you were seeing was, and yeah, for people who haven't listened, the last 2 podcasts we've done, we could not have timed it in a more bizarre fashion. So you came up, and I was getting my blue belt, and then you came up again, and I was getting my purple belt, and we did the podcast the same day, like a year apart, with no scheduling whatsoever. And I think they actually told me both times after we had booked the trip. So what you were seeing was it's an SBG tradition, not really a jiu-jitsu tradition, where it's an Ironman where you roll with everybody in the gym to submission from white to black, because if you're likely going to get hurt, it should be with less experienced people. So you roll with them when you're more fresh, and as you go ascend the belt tree, they should be a little bit more in control. But it's a chance to celebrate rolling at your previous belt, and then you roll with your coach, and you get submitted for the first time at your new belt. So brown would be next, but I am still just a lowly purple belt.
Well, my wife asked me as I was leaving. She's like, "Is Andy getting a new belt this time?" I'm like,
"That would be so ridiculously ironic if that had happened for a third time."
And for those listening, it's not a class of 5 people.
No, there was 60 or 70 people in both of those.
It was huge. It was huge. And you're on there for how many hours?
2 to 2.5.
It was a long time.
Yeah. You were probably bored out of your mind.
I took 5 bathroom breaks. It was a long time. But it was great. I was talking to people. It was wonderful. And then watching you crush. I mean, you just crushed people. It was awesome. Even he's totally exhausted. You inspired me, but you inspired a ton of people also, other than me, that are in that class. Seeing you stay in it after 2.5 hours.
Earn that tap.
And then, people did. Even those senior level people. Yeah. One in particular that I remember, they earned it. Yeah. You made them earn it. That was legit.
That's what you got to do.
That was awesome.
It might have been awesome to watch. It sucks when you're in the middle of it, but
yeah, it was great to watch.
No belt today. I'm sorry to let you down. My jiu-jitsu journey is not up to par with the velocity of your books.
That's a little disappointing. But you have 1 year now for a round. So next one will come out probably. This was May, but April, May next year for 6, which I'm writing right now. So
you get the title of it already?
I do, but it's classified. Yeah, you got to do a thing. You got to do a whole thing. You got to announce it. And then
you have to.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
Is it Out of the Blood?
No. I'll write that down.
Yeah, I mean, that would be in the blood. You covered it, now you got to get out of the blood.
Yeah, titles are important to me because it's otherwise I'm thinking about it. It's wasting that bandwidth. It's over here as I'm working on the story and I know I have to come up with a title, but it's just over here taking up a little bit of bandwidth. So I before I start to have that title already there.
That makes sense.
I have an outline already there. So I'm not oh, geez, where's this thing going? Oh my gosh. So I have all that so that all my energy and effort can be focused right on the task at hand, writing this thing. And this one, we're talking in the car all over here. We're talking parenting tactics, dealing with technology and TikTok and all that sort of a thing. But in this one, I went deep into artificial intelligence, into cyber computers, into the different levels of the internet, into the surveillance state, into mass data storage. And it was very interesting because that last book...
you went deep into the chem bio world.
Chem bio world last time, interviewed a lot of people that had touch points in it. Yeah. And the same thing held true for this one, is that when you talk to enough people that are involved in something that has some sensitivities to it, they leave things out. They want to make sure they're not violating anything, so they want to make sure they don't give you the full picture. They tell you.
But if you talk to 20 people, they'll leave out different things.
Exactly. So I think that's what kind of journalists do, to put a picture together, to put this mosaic together. So that's what I did on this one too, with the cyber computer artificial intelligence world as it pertains to surveillance and the military.
How nutty is it?
It is. Each one of them told me something along these lines, that they would tell me more, but it would put my book in the science fiction category.
Meaning that people would just refuse to believe it?
Yep.
Do you think it's possible, let's say it's like I agree with the terminology, the surveillance state. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's possible to unwind?
Well, not without some sort of a mass casualty event, but some sort of a seismic shift, natural disaster, who knows, something like that, because it's so far. people will understand when they read the book, I think, a little more. I made it as clear as I possibly could through the first part of the storyline to paint this picture in a way that someone like me could understand, who grew up kind of after all this technology hit. But even the people that I talk to are unclear, essentially, about who controls this thing called the internet. Yeah.
Perfect.
And I put it in the book.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. So I have this conversation between James Reece, who has a background similar to mine, therefore a technical knowledge of these things similar to mine. And I have him in conversation with people that are much more knowledgeable, and him asking questions that I'd ask, like, well, why can't you just Control-Alt-Delete this thing? Or can you pull the plug? Just pull the plug. And that's not how it works.
It's
anymore.
housed in so many places at this point, right? That pulling the plug in one place, it's not going to necessarily do anything anywhere else.
It's and the artificial intelligence piece of it is an interesting animal, and using the word animal is quite appropriate.
If you had $1 million that you had to bet on when we will start working for robots, when would it be?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, it's
sooner rather than later.
I mean, things that were fiction, as we talked about a while ago, it became real, became reality. From submarines to space travel to flight, all these things that started off in someone's imagination or in the pages of a novel became real things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who knows? But it's we're on the path. It's really interesting. It's obviously uncharted, and not many people can understand it.
Well, I also think that not only are we on that path as a country, but countries are now competing down this path to get farther and farther down the road.
Oh yeah. So I a lot of the things that I read did, as far as who's ahead in cyber computing and mass data storage, didn't line up exactly to what my interview suggested. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of, you have to figure out and kind of morph it together. And it's all fiction, but which allows me you can make a mistake and you say, hey, it's fiction when someone calls you out on it. But from my research, I think we still have the edge.
Yeah.
Because some things you read say that China has this edge in cyber computing or quantum computing, and that sort of a thing. But I think we got the edge. But it's that's the battles of the future, the wars of the future might be fought on these different levels of the internet, which is crazy to think about. Crazy.
Yeah, it is for sure. How much can you tell the listeners about the book?
Ooh, so this one, if people have been reading up to this point, there are a couple things that have not been resolved in previous novels. So this one is a sniper-centric novel of violent resolutions, is how I
feel like you've practiced saying that a few times.
I like a theme. So I like a theme that guides me as I'm writing. So I like everything to come back, whether it's directly or indirectly, to whatever theme that I'm exploring. So revenge without constraint in the first one, which helped so much because when it got to Simon & Schuster, there wasn't that much to edit because I had tied everything back to that theme. I never got off track, went down all these tangents. And even if I went down a tangent, it was to develop something that indirectly led back to that theme.
Never became a vampire love novel.
It did not. It wasn't even close.
Unfortunately.
But True Believer, that's a story of violent redemption on that one. And then Savage Son, I wanted to explore the dark side of man through the dynamic of hunter and hunted. So I like to have these themes. So I wanted to explore the sniper thing and not have it end up as what's been written about for so long and have been in so many movies is the two snipers looking for each other at the end.
The glint of the glass and it's through the scope.
Exactly. So I knew I had to avoid that, and I still had to I wanted to write this novel that I've been wanting to write so long and bring in all this passion I have for the long distance shooting and sniping and all that stuff and bring it together in a way that's new and different and moves the genre forward, even if it's by just a degree. But I knew I had to avoid that looking, glint of the scope, boom, exactly like you just said, without any prompting
like
whatsoever.
The single most cliche movie plot with snipers. Yeah,
exactly. So I had to avoid that and still write a sniper-centric novel. So that was the fun part, is trying to figure out how to do that without that exact scene that you've read about or watched in movies 100 times.
Yeah.
So that was a fun part for me, is how I did that. And that's really a surprise for people that might expect it to go that route, that don't listen to this podcast, that might, here you go, it's going to be the same thing I've read about a gazillion times. But to work around that in a way that was fun and creative. So that was a blast for me.
I think people underestimate the psychological power of a marksman with a high-powered rifle, let alone the physical impact that it can have.
It can change the course of history.
Yes, it can. When somebody next to you and their head blows up like a watermelon, it changes the way that you think about things, about what you want to do.
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
Yeah, one well-placed round can really change quite a bit of things on the battlefield.
Sure. The psychological impact of that one round can have a much greater impact than the dollar that 50 cal round cost, or that 300 Win Mag round cost, or that 7.62 or 5.56 round cost. So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, the psychological play when you're thinking about snipers and their impact on the battlefield. But I love the history of sniping. I love all that stuff. Because when we went through, it was the art of sniping.
For sure.
And it became, over time, technology and then experience on the battlefield, more science into that training for these guys. But when we went through, it was definitely Vietnam era tactics.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the art of reading the wind and that sort of a thing.
Which is still, I actually think, probably the biggest portion of the art form. I know they have like Bluetooth laser rangefinders now that are sniffing atmospherics and putting all that in there. To me, like, distance is easy to calculate for because that's purely math. Looking at and reading wind, that's a bitch.
Yeah.
Dude, do you know what I'm unbelievable at with the sniper rifle? Missing.
Stop it. Come on.
I can miss whatever I'm shooting at with the best of them.
Well, then you adjust. Yeah, you can adjust quickly.
Dude,
maybe that's your skill.
Do you know what also I'm good at? Missing the follow-up shot.
Stop it. Come on.
I'm just being honest. People think it's just like one shot, one kill. I might have the record for most missed sniper shots overseas.
Oh, but then you had the javelin. So then you picked up the javelin. You're like looking at your 300 javelin. Let's do that.
They each have their own purpose. If there's more than one person at a distance that I feel that the heat-seeking fire and forget warhead can lock onto, it's Javi time.
Yeah.
If it's an individual, first I'm going to scare you, and then I might get you.
What was that? They're shooting at the cans. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could say it was just like...
I never got to shoot a javelin, but hearing you talk about them on other podcasts, I've been like, man, I feel... wish I'd shot one of those. That would have been great. And then I could better incorporate it into a novel, but I got to put it in there and take...
I can consult with you.
Yeah, perfect. That'd be great.
When the Ukrainian war was kicking off...
Yeah, people are talking about javelins. I was thinking of you.
Coffee or Die magazine, they called me. They're like, hey... How would you use this? I'm like, well,
let me tell you.
How much time do you have? First, I would fuck shit up with these things.
Yeah.
First, you need to establish a stable of people that are going to carry them for you, much like Nick Norris. First, determine who's going to carry the weight. You will carry, of course, the clue, the launcher, the command launching unit. And, then just start handing me tubes and knocking down tanks.
That's wild.
Or helicopters.
Yeah.
Or people.
Yeah. I love when you said that it's it's
an anti-tank weapon that also works on people.
Yes, I know. That's the exact line. I want to incorporate that into another novel. It didn't really work in this one, so I need to figure out in book 6 or 7 how to work that in there, because it's a fantastic line.
It was a unique set of circumstances that I was in 01 with a 300 Win Mag and a javelin and 2 tubes just gallivanting across Afghanistan.
Fantastic. Yeah.
I don't know if everybody thought it was fantastic. I did.
Yeah. That's a great thing about being, what was your officer thing called? What was it's like a line officer versus the...
I was a limited duty officer, which is a line officer.
Okay.
But that was the commissioning program that I came through. Very heavy on the limited.
Right. So So you're like in that warrant officer type of thing. We're like, what do we do with a warrant officer in the SEAL teams? Like Army, SF, they know what to do with a warrant officer.
Yeah.
And they train those guys. It's awesome. Like the training that those guys go through. I think all of it, but particularly for those warrant officers, such respect for that training, and then for how they come out of there. We don't do that really.
The warrants, they exist in a weird world in the SEAL community. And the LDO program, to my understanding, is no longer an available commissioning source.
Yeah.
Mostly because it wasn't being utilized.
Yeah. Because we didn't know how. Same thing with warrants. We're like, I guess you go to ops.
From like a
training
uniform perspective, you would not be able to tell. Like if you get 2 people in their dress blues, warrants, they have different rank devices, but they also have different what do they call it on the sleeve?
Let's call it
designator, perhaps.
Let's call it a sleeve device.
Sure, even though it's sewn on.
Yeah. So it's
LDOs.
It's called something.
LDO's uniforms look identical to a line officer, so you wouldn't. It was just a commissioning source, and I actually think they switched over all of the LDOs to just straight 1130s.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you went in this pile. I remember when they were at the team. Sometimes they were like warrant officer, limited duty officer. What are they, I guess training. Yeah, maybe I'm not sure. So it was like a thing like we didn't know.
Maybe it's training, and maybe it's
going to Afghanistan, and exactly. All the limited duty officers in the SEAL teams become our javelin crews essentially.
But here's the thing, though: none of that would have happened if it wasn't for the enlisted experience.
Yeah.
that was the difference. I went through sniper school as a probably E4, E5, probably in 99, maybe 2000. Yeah, like I don't think there's any Naval Academy O1s that are cruising around the battle space with like $250,000 of anti-tank missiles that they completely and utterly intend to shoot at human beings.
Yeah. No, I think that's a unique experience to you, which is great. But now you have people listening to this podcast that are like 16, 17, 18 that want to do exactly that.
It's never going to happen.
As an 01.
It's never going to happen.
Hey, never say no. You never know. Happened to you.
Okay, well, you got to go be enlisted for 12 years first and then find a commissioning program and then an environment where you're there to kind of fill in for a gap while one of the other officers is with his wife because they're getting ready to have a kid at the beginning of a deployment, and then establish yourself as the terrain denial weapon system.
Yeah, I can see it happening. Yeah, man. I can see it happening.
Oh, fuck. I don't know if I laugh so hard when those things would hit. I don't know what that says about me.
That's probably a healthy way to deal with it.
Probably.
Yeah.
Back to the book.
Yeah.
Tell me more about James Reece. What's he got going on? Other than you obviously said you did a deep dive into probably the things that people don't think about very much, but would probably scare the shit out of them if they realized how many touch points, entities, I was going to say the government, but we'll just say entities have if you, I don't know, have one of these cell phones.
Oh, yeah.
Car with a GPS in it.
Yeah.
Smartwatch.
Sure. Anything, the Internet of Things, anything connected via Bluetooth, anything that listens, anything
Your fridge.
Your fridge. Yeah. Not a joke.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
You have to come to a place where you realize they know everything. And then it's actually easier to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, even in the show, Chris Pratt's talking to somebody, and he said, "Hey, these things are listening devices that also make phone calls, or tracking devices that also make phone
100%.
calls." And so I worked that into the novel, worked it into the show, and then really went deep into it for In the Blood here. But yeah, of course, it's like I think people have this character has resonated with people because he's on a journey just like everybody else is. Like he's not stagnant. It's just not like the same person in each and every novel. Just like all of us, we're moving. Hopefully, we're evolving. Hopefully, we're learning. Hopefully, we're adapting. We're moving forward. We're making decisions. So I've incorporated that into the character as he moves along while he's dealing with these things, whether they're personal, whether they're more strategic in nature. Like a couple books, I've gone back and forth between the very intense personal revenge type of thing and then save the world type of stuff. So there's and then I bridge the gap a bunch, but he's also on a journey just like everybody. So I think that's really why he's resonated and why he resonated with Chris Pratt, because he could choose anything to do. Any project out there,
yeah,
essentially,
at this point.
Because he's putting eyeballs on screens and people in the seats, and there are very few actors that are doing that in the numbers that he can. So I feel extremely fortunate that this character resonated with him, and he wanted to bring him to life. And as I was writing it, I don't know if I told you this before, as I was writing this first one, I thought of him playing James Reece.
You had told me that before, like when you were thinking about the character.
Yeah, because for a child of the 80s, it's very natural to think of who's going to play my character in a movie. And I thought, hey, it couldn't be somebody that has done these things before. It has to be somebody new, has to be somebody who's willing to take a risk. And at the time, Chris had only been in Parks and Rec. So he's Andy Dwyer, a little overweight, lovable. And then he plays a SEAL, Zero Dark 30. And I saw that physical transformation. And I thought, this is the guy. So well before Avengers, well before Guardians of the Galaxy, well before Jurassic World, I thought this is the guy that needs to take a risk and can pull this off. And I need him to be likable. And this is an inherently likable person. And you think he's a good person, watch him from the outside, and in real life, he is such a kind person. He's such a great guy. And I needed that because I needed the audience to maybe forgive a couple things that he might do in the book and in the series. Yeah. So just like Tom Hanks doing all the comedies in the 80s, well, he takes that risk with Philadelphia in the early 90s, and then he can do whatever he wants. And I thought, who needs to take that risk? This is a new Chris Pratt that people have not seen before in any of his other films. And so it's going to be a surprise to people that are a little skeptical to see if he can pull off being a badass and be this tough and be this vicious and violent and ruthless. Well, he does.
How many books are you going to write until you kill off old James Reece?
I don't know. It makes financial sense to keep going. Yeah.
So about 80?
Yeah, exactly. So one a year. I do have plans for other things, but it's for me, it's about prioritizing right now. And I know you can't tell, but over the past 3-4 years, the physical conditioning, the eating right, and sleeping have kind of fallen to the bottom of my priority list in order to do all these other things. But eventually, this is my year to kind of get organized. And I know I said that last year, but this year I mean it. But
you mean this year that we're halfway through?
Yeah, I know. It's going so fast. My goodness. So doing this, I love doing this. I love this character, and I've heard of some authors who have a character that's recurring that it once again makes financial sense to keep going forward with, that come to despise that character, and they don't.
The author despises the character?
Yeah, because they're tied to it, and I do not have that problem. I will keep writing these. I feel so fortunate to be doing the other thing in life other than being a SEAL that I have felt that calling for very early on. So I feel so fortunate each and every day. But I will continue to do these every year until it makes sense not to. And but there's some other things I want to delve into too, maybe some young adult type stuff, because there's a big gap there for that age range from, let's say, 5th grade through 8th grade in there, where they don't really know what to read, and there's all these other distractions out there. So there's some things I want to do there. There's some nonfiction stuff looking at some historical events that I want to maybe look into a little bit, and just keep building this thing out and doing things that are fun and that I enjoy. And I love the podcast. I love doing the podcast because it allows us to do this.
Yeah.
Sit down and block off a day, and my phone's not buzzing, my email's not going off. There's nothing else scheduled except to fly up here and get to sit down and hang out with my buddy for a little bit. And it's awesome. So I love doing the podcast because of that.
Yeah.
And I like to have people on that I can help out also, kind of like Joe helped me out. Joe helped you out.
Help me out too, yeah. Substantially.
And, so I like being able to do that in my small way for people that are coming up. So I get to use that as a way to do that, and try to thank everybody I possibly can who took a risk on me as a new author and recommended me to a friend. And that's how this built out, all word of mouth. But I am very thankful that Joe did not have me on until I made the New York Times list. That was a blessing in disguise, because now I don't have to hear like, hey, the only reason you made the list is because Joe had you on. So that's nice not to be able to hear that. So
it's pretty much precisely what I would say to you.
I know. Thank goodness. Thank goodness he didn't have me on until after that. So
what are you doing for yourself? Like, what are you doing outside of writing that is enriching yourself? Because it sounds like you're devoting almost all of your time to building this.
Yeah, it's a lot, because people are trusting me with that time. And so I just feel this responsibility, just like I felt in the SEAL teams, even when I was a E3, E4, E5, to be all in on that. Because people, whether I was at just learning to be my first SEAL platoon, well, people are depending on me to do this job. And then maybe second platoon, I have one person kind of under me. Okay, so now I got a little.
This isn't life
more.
or death, though.
It is not. So that's what's great about it. I can take a little more time. So I can adapt, and if I mess up on something, I can edit it the next day. But it still takes not the same amount, because people aren't dying if I mess up. But that just lets me have more time to think things through. I don't have to make a decision under fire, because if I don't, people are going to die. And if I make the wrong decisions, people are going to die. And sometimes if I make the right decisions, people are still going to die.
Yeah.
Which is what I think a lot of people dealing with some post-traumatic stress have to deal with. They even make the right decision, and people still die. But for this, you know what? I can make a decision, I can write it in, and then I can go edit 3 days later, a month later, if it didn't come out exactly the way I wanted it to. But that's still a lot of time. So for myself, it's family. It's family, and getting
what kind of physical outlet you got?
Come on. That's the part that's fallen off. So it's really, it's keeping up with the dog when we go out, going on hikes, skiing with the kids. So mostly it's actual activities, going on hunts, but not the training for them, going out and skiing. But
do you have a gym in your garage?
For it. It's coming along. I'm starting off with the Rocky IV style. So Sornex outside, what do they call it? The off the grid rack, I think they call it. So I'm going to get that out there. So I'm going to do this Rocky IV style outside gym, and then eventually have this barn that we're building that's going to have the nice gym in there. But for now, what I'm going to start doing is those Mountain Tough guys, they're out here in Bozeman. I'm going to start doing their program, because all I need is like a tire and a sledgehammer and a pack with some weight in it. And I just need to start prioritizing that. But right now there's so much going on, and there's other projects in Hollywood that we're working on. And by we're, I mean producers out there. This has opened a lot of doors, which is incredible, to other projects in Hollywood, writing outside of this on scripts as a writer, as a producer. So that's just figuring out the right ones, and maybe none of them ever come to fruition, but it's still fun to be involved in them and see how this process works. So now's the time to sprint, keep building this foundation, while at the same time spending as much time with the family as I possibly can. I probably need to do a better job.
I can see you saying the same thing in 10 years if you're not careful.
So can I.
Well, that's the thing, right? If the carrot's always in front of you, one thing, what I certainly haven't done is figured myself out. I'm 44 now. I think I understand myself a little bit better. I haven't figured myself out. A few things that I have determined is that for me, money is not a good metric for success.
No.
I know a lot of people at this point who have a level of wealth that I'm like, God damn, and they're fucking miserable.
Yeah.
So Fridays I do Q&A episodes, and one of them that I'm going to answer, this episode will come out after it, but guy made a cryptocurrency investment. It's got 7 figures returns, and he feels completely purposeless and passionless in life because he can do whatever the fuck he wants to do, right?
That's tough.
And the metric is, hey, like I got everything that everybody else seems to be grinding away for, and I'm not happy. And then there's the other side of that, which is people who are grinding away and grinding away and grinding away and grinding away, and they're saving and they're building. And then they come to the end of the lap and they didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
They didn't get to do anything with it.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm trying to find a balance between professionally doing things like the coffee shop and literally investing in a tangible asset and something that can have long-term growth associated with that, investing in the podcast, because this is by far the favorite thing that I do now. Sitting down, and most of the time I'm not bullshitting with a guy I've known for 20 plus years, but it just makes it ridiculously easy. But I enjoy doing it, but I also constantly keeping the thought in the back of my mind that I have to carve out time to enjoy something outside of these things with the economics that any business investments provide. Like, go do something with it, as opposed to just looking at a number somewhere and like, I got to build, I got to get to the next. I don't want to come up to the end of the track and realize like I did a great job of building and never enjoyed a damn thing.
Yeah. So I love the writing. I love the creating. So I feel very fortunate in that I knew what I was passionate about, which is the writing and creating side. And then also my mission, which is taking care of my family. So bringing those two together and having one support the other, and hopefully this one making me better at the writing as well.
If you get fat, I'm going to fuck you up.
Believe me, so that's why I need to like take a breath and realize, okay,
I'm going to fat shame you on the internet.
I don't think that's illegal anymore. I think you can, well, you know what? I think Elon bought Twitter. You can actually do it on Twitter for me now.
I have a Twitter account. I almost never go on there.
I know, because sometimes I tag you on there, but you're only on Instagram.
Do you really?
Right? Yeah.
I tag you on Instagram when I sign your books.
That's awesome. I know. I appreciate that. Any way that gets the word out, those might be more valuable in the long term because they'll be, there won't be as many of them out there. They'll be a little more rare.
I hope. Well, I'm assuming that they are bought because I almost always do it at airports when I'm walking through. I'll do one of two things: either sign the book and put it back, or just slide another book over in front of it so nobody can see that your book's for sale. Both of which I'll document and tag you in when I post them on my story.
I don't repost those, as you've noticed. Don't encourage this behavior, but
hopefully somebody buys one of those and reaches out to you.
Yeah, it'll be totally. Yeah, if somebody does, because I try to repost. I try to put in stories anytime someone takes the time to tell however many people follow them, whether it's 2 people or 10 or whatever it is. I try to take that time to just put it in stories because I sincerely appreciate people doing that and allowing me to have this life and do what I love doing. So I try to do that, but I haven't seen somebody post. And I think I still see everything. Like it's getting a little harder, but I think I still see everything.
I tag you.
No, I see those, but I mean somebody actually buying it and then taking the picture. And
I haven't seen it yet either.
And then tagging me. So they're out there though. They're out there.
There's only like a half a dozen, but I can redouble my efforts.
And please don't, because I'm going to have to reach out to people, direct message and say, hey, if you thought that was me, I'm going to send you a brand new copy of the new book and sign it. Because I feel sorry for my juvenile. I know, as an apology for my juvenile friend here who's walking around signing my books, I'm going to send you an actual one here.
I'm not juvenile. Thank you. I'm 44. Emotionally,
I was talking. You know exactly what I was saying. No, but I feel fortunate to be able to do this.
Yeah.
But I also know that I need to start taking care of myself a little better. Like that's
it's one of the first things that people will let slide, to include myself. When I had first gotten out of the military and I was bouncing around and trying to figure out what I was going to do, I will prioritize myself last, which in the short term seems like the right thing to do. You can really justify it, but then you get to a point where you're like, oh shit, I need to completely shift this and prioritize, at least have time to prioritize it for myself. That's what jiu-jitsu has become for me.
That's awesome.
Is a 2-hour window every day. It's a block away, right? So I can go 12 to 2. I can do stuff before that, and I can do stuff after that, but I have that time for me physically and mentally.
Yeah.
It's huge. And I think, both of us are in the same boat. Our old job was not the easiest for wear and tear on the old chassis. So I think the longer we can stay active and stay ahead of it, the better. I'm not.
Yeah. No, I know this.
I'm not looking forward to the end for either of us.
No, I know this. That's why I know I need to make some changes as far as that goes. But I had some spine surgery, and but every day, like right now, I can feel it. But every day I'm like, you know what? That's all I have. Like guys are missing arms, they're missing legs, they have this traumatic brain injury, they're dealing with post-traumatic stress, they're drinking, they don't know their mission and next mission in life, and I've got this little thing in my neck that hurts every now and again. Like that's good. Like that's pretty good. Yeah. When I had some knee surgery, but also I had shoulder surgery. So I had those 3 just to get repaired along the way. So I know those I'll have to pay that bill at some point. But
I've never had a surgery or broken a bone.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Even with getting shot.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, that's. That kind of trumps some of the other things. So
not really.
You got shot. Yeah.
Enemy Marksmanship Award.
Getting shot. Yeah, that counts. That counts. Big time.
For something.
But yeah, I know I need to do something. When the barn goes in, I'm going to have a boxing gym in there because I really enjoy that. I think the jiu-jitsu, I did it early on in life before anybody knew what it really was. You need to find a training partner,
though. It's a tough one to do solo.
Yeah. Well,
I'll come down and train with you if you want.
Not for jiu-jitsu. I'm done with jiu-jitsu, but boxing.
Really?
Yeah.
Why are you done with it?
Because I started it very early, so early 90s, before when all you needed to do was mount, guard.
So who gives a shit?
So I dabbled over the years,
and
but boxing was always, I was much more comfortable with my stand-up, and now with the wear and tear on the body, I think the boxing is the way to go for me, so I'm going to put a boxing gym in.
You just need to find a good training partner. Oh, man. It might maintain your mobility and flexibility. It doesn't have to be crazy. It really doesn't have to be crazy.
I hear this every time. We're just going to go at 10%.
Well,
and then it becomes, you know how that goes.
But guess what? Both parties are responsible for that.
Exactly.
If you find the right training partner, it's not like that. There are days where I break a sweat every time, but there are definite days where there are differences in physical output.
Yeah.
And I don't know a lot of jiu-jitsu, but I feel like you're
pretty good.
You quit jiu-jitsu 20 years ago. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You get to a knowledge or experience place where you can kind of defend yourself at the pace that you want it to be at. You can accept a little bit of it and just kind of keep yourself safe. So there are days where I'm just not feeling it, and I'll just control the roll at the pace that I want to be at.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a pleasurable experience for the other party, but it doesn't have to be 2 lions fighting in a cage, I guess is my point.
But let's say I have a half hour. I'm going to box. I can eat. I feel like
you can
that
do if somebody
foundation.
bear hugs you in real life with your family.
I feel like my ground game is where it is, and I have to just
you're a game time player?
No, my ground game, like my skill level is just where it is. Like it's plateaued. And
you say that based off of quitting ground training 20 years ago?
I dabbled over the years. So I was still doing it in Coronado when I was getting out. So I was still doing it there, but just dabbling. I was working with great guys. Aaron Hernandez.
But definitely don't keep training it, and then just wait for something to happen in real life. That's a really good strategy.
No, I think it's boxing, stand-up, and pistols and knives and, that sort of a thing. So, but I did. So I was on Lanai 2 weeks ago in Hawaii.
Were you hunting?
Yeah, so got my daughter out there.
Rifle or bow?
Rifle. Had to get some meat, I was on the timeline with the family. Shot this axis deer, and it went down in this ravine up a mountain. So it was up a mountain and fell in this ravine up there. I was like, dang it. Okay, so
it's not the situation you want.
So we're gonna drive up there, and then the road's washed out. I'm like, dang it.
Yep.
So we got out, and I'm with our guides there, Alex, and he is.
I've hunted with him.
Yeah,
He's
Alex is awesome. Alex is amazing. Did some time in the Army, and before he met me at 5 a.m, he'd already run 10 miles. Yeah, he's legit.
Yeah.
But awesome guy, such a humble guy. And so anyway, we went up after this thing. Of course, he's not even breaking a sweat. He's not breathing hard.
Just dying.
I was hurting. I was hurting. We had to drag this thing out, by antlers and down to the road, and then the road was washed out, so we had to go down again and up the other side of it with these big boulders in there. And I was feeling it. Not gonna lie to you, I was feeling it. So I was like, man, Came back, told my wife, I'm like, yeah, I need to get back on it. So what did I do when I woke up the next morning when we got back home? Yeah, I went to work on the books.
Yeah. Or just shoot them near a road.
That's the better way to go. I mean, that's
like,
the smart
look at that
move.
amazing deer. Be like, yeah, but look at that average deer that is standing on the road.
Yeah, that's the way to go. You got to be smarter about these things, especially when there's so many of them like there are in Hawaii.
Oh my God. I've hunted it.
So, I know.
Barklow with a bow, which is ridiculously frustrating / awesome. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a target-rich environment.
It is. Yeah.
That's right. I forgot you had a tie to them.
Yep. So there's 4 of us that are partners in it, and Alec is our main guide out there that runs everything, and then Bob the Butcher is out there. I don't think was he out there when you were there? I'm not sure.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you did have the Bob the Butcher experience.
He's also out of his fucking mind.
But
Bob the
what
Butcher
a great job he does.
Phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Unique. We'll call it a bespoke experience.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. No, such a great guy.
Yeah.
And does an amazing job. So yeah, we have a bunch of axis deer to fill the freezer for the next few months, and get to talk about it. Obviously, when it comes out of that freezer, and talk to our little guy, our 11-year-old, about him. Did they?
So good.
Remember when you got this? And now you're providing food for the family here, and then we get to have some people over to share it. So yeah, I got through that. But the point of that story was, I need to get out there and get after it here. Yeah, sooner rather than later.
All right, I'll just hold you accountable. I'm going to ambush you in your driveway one day.
Can't wait to ask me next year. Yeah. Then would you ask me next year?
Very old schoolish.
I'll be like, exactly. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. But when you ask me next year, I'll be like, this is my year to get organized. This is my year to get in shape. But no, I need to do that. Gonna get the pull-up bar out there. Get that Sornex off the grid rack. Get some of those. What do they call the big? The not the kettlebells, but the thing that's just the ball. From Sornex, it's just a ball with a little handle in it. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, what do they call those? I know exactly what you're talking about.
So those, the tire, the sledge,
a
couple other things like that. And just, I know what I need to do. Just got.
It doesn't have to be complex, that's for sure.
No, don't even need anything. I just got to jump rope and throw some weight in a pack, and I'll be just fine. But it needs to happen. It needs to happen for sure. But
how dare you wear the same watch as me?
Aries, look at this. Matthew Graham crushing it. And I need to
I looked over today as I picked you up at the airport. I was like, what the hell?
Yep.
We're wearing the identical watch.
Yep. These are awesome. Love these Aries watches. And so Matt Graham, this is one from when he first started. So this is an early one. I have
these are the divers, right? Aries
diver one. Yep. And what a great guy. I've been
introduced to him through text. I've never met him. So maybe you could unpack a little bit of the story behind it.
Yeah. So kind. I just had him on the podcast. We're going to do a little watch giveaway here next month. But he did this air marshal stuff, like when they're the air marshal training, and just got so good with the pistol, with the rifle. Then he went over to work at the agency, training guys up over there, and that's I think where Evan met him, Evan Hafer, Black Rifle.
Yep.
And so they got to be friends over there. So I got to ask Evan when Matt first reached out to me years ago, and with his first batch of watches, essentially.
How did he find his way into the watch world?
He's always passionate about it. Since he was a little kid, he still has this first watch that he had, and I have the same one. And I remember exactly, it's this Citizen that they used, a dive watch that they used to wrap around a mini scuba tank, and at the watch store they drop it into an aquarium tank. These little tiny things. Yeah. And
that's
so I totally
awesome.
remember. And he got the thing. He got the actual the scuba tank that it was on, which was like the prop for it. And I didn't get that, but we both have the same watch. He has the passion for doing it. I've been a passionate watch person. Yeah, exactly. And then he wanted to make these, and I love this thing. I love this. I wear it all the time.
I do too. I got mine as a gift from Evan for Christmas of 21.
Yep. So last year, I got that one. Did you look at the inscription on it? It should say BRCC or on the back. It should have a little number and say like BR something like that. Yeah.
BRC.
There it is.
Mine says number 1. There's a couple of the numbers.
001.
There's a couple of the numbers behind it, but I'm just going to focus on
Let's do that. Let's focus on that one. Yeah. So that was cool. To do
I actually
that.
didn't know that was there until you just said that.
Well, attention to detail.
Which I've been known not to do. Could be what I'm known for, actually.
It's one of the things that makes me lovable.
Shit.
Yeah. But he's awesome dude in Washington State, so not that far away from here.
Yeah.
But just a solid dude. So I love when guys get out of government service, whether they're in the military or police officers, firefighters, whatever it is, and they find this next passion and then they build it. And essentially building this out of his garage and continues to build it, and people are responding to it, and
those are my favorite stories.
Yeah.
By far.
Yep.
Speaking of timepieces, we still got to do your podcast.
I was thinking we could either do mine or we could just do, what is it called? The dual cast?
Swapcast?
Yeah, is that what it's called? I don't even know. We could just drop this on both, or is that not a good idea?
I have no idea.
I don't know either.
You'd be shocked at how little I know about best podcasting policies.
This is my shocked face.
Yeah, you'd be utterly surprised at how little we could do that. I don't care.
Well, we'll see.
Or we could, maybe
we'll take a break and we'll see, and then we'll let the audience we'll just leave them hanging, I guess. See if we do a what'd you call it? Would you call it
Swapcast?
Swapcast. Okay, yeah. Well, you knew the name. I called it the
When
wrong
do you
thing.
need the episode to come out? This will be out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, right.
Which is an
then.
irrelevant terminology for the people listening to this, because when they hear it, it will be the day that it came out.
Right around. What day do you release these things?
Mondays.
I do
which
Wednesday.
is a far superior day than Wednesday.
I do Wednesday.
So does Jocko, copycat. Not a big deal.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he's really concerned about it. She's worrying about it right now. But I have a couple questions for you. Maybe we'll do that. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I think I'll.
All right.
Yeah.
How do you want to close this one out? Where can first off? So the book. When does the book come out?
It comes out on the 17th of May. So it's available in audio, in ebook, and in hardcover here.
Let me.
Yeah, so that's a Tuesday on the 17th. And
so this episode will come out the 9th. So it'll be about a week before that.
Perfect.
So when people listen to this, they will not have the chance to buy it yet. Or where they'll be
pre-order in all different formats.
And they will be able to do so where?
They can go to any place they get books. I like to push people towards the independent bookstores, local independent bookstores. But of course, the easy button is always the Amazon or the Barnes and Noble. But anywhere books are sold, go to my website, officialjackcarr.com. Check out all the things that are going on there. There's a blog. There's a bunch of other things. But hey, I just appreciate people that reach out to me and tell me how much they enjoy the novel and how much they're looking forward to the series. And that's what I really like about social media, is me being able to thank those people, because 30 years ago, if you were an author, the only time you got to thank somebody was when you were at a book signing and someone came up to you and shook your hand and said, hey, love your book. Now I can do that on social media. I can do the other side of that, though, is that people get to tell you how much they hate your book.
I was just going to ask you, how do you deal with the trolls?
It's tough. I mean, the social media thing is tough though? Because I'm a very sensitive person. And
there's an emoticon that's a middle finger that you can just cut and paste. It's effective.
Yeah, what the wild part psychologically about it is you can read one, or somebody can be like just super mean, or maybe they didn't even read the book, and you think about it, and then a day later, I can't even remember what it was. I just remember I was really upset about it, but I don't even remember what it was now.
Do you find though that the
one
negative comment will spend more time in your brain than the 100 positive ones?
Oh yeah,
it's like you weight this one commentary so much more because it happens to be negative. It's like, how about I just take this in the grand totality of the vast majority of these were fantastic.
Yeah.
And then there's one douchebag.
Yep, I know. And that one, and then you can't remember it even a couple days later. But I've been doing it for a while, read the negative reviews. Yeah. So I do that. And that's kind of
I enjoy doing that sometimes too.
Oh, do you read them? Do you read like negative tweets or negative reviews? Of
YouTube comments usually.
Oh, I can't go to YouTube comments.
If you want some gold as far as reading negativity, that's where you can go.
That is a great idea, because I think Ironclad, who produces my podcast, I'll ask them, because there's, like we talked about,
just have them do a collection of
bad ones. Exactly. And then I'll read them. That's a fantastic idea, because I've never delved into the YouTube comments because I just knew that it was
They'll spend
horrible.
15 seconds writing out a largely inarticulate, uneducated, unthought out position, and you could dedicate 20 minutes to fucking filleting them.
I kind of make it more fun. I don't do it in a mean way. I just gotta kind of make fun, and and they probably, there's probably a couple good points in there, but it's fun for me. It's kind of fun to turn a negative into a positive, and so I like to do that. But
you could always turn a negative into a negative.
Is it double negative?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't gone into those ones. I do read the Amazon ones, and that's where I've been pulling the negative reviews from thus far. Goodreads, they're very critical over there on Goodreads. Like they're serious about it. Yeah.
I've never been to that site. I might have to check this out.
Yeah, they have some. People get pretty big, pretty serious. But yeah, I have not gone into the YouTube ones, but I'll have Ironclad do that and then read some of those. That'd be fun.
I'll tell you right now, they're going to be juicy.
Yeah. Oh man,
YouTube is the bastion of some very serious keyboard warriors.
Yeah, YouTube and Twitter, right? They're kind of like in competition for being the biggest cesspool. Is that right?
I think Twitter might be a rung up, actually.
Yeah.
Out of the pool.
Okay. Got it. Oh.
I'm not saying it's like a massive, like you can barely reach it rung.
Right.
But I think it's out of the liquid.
Okay. Yeah. Instagram is pretty, like people are, for the vast majority, everybody's great. Every now and again, there's somebody with a, whatever. That's just how it goes. But hey, that's the flip side of being able to take advantage of these platforms as essentially a general store. That's how I look at it. Somebody comes in and asks for directions. They might never have bought the book, never listened to the podcast, whatever. And they might just ask me something about a pistol. Like, okay, I'll answer you. But it's like being in a general store and someone coming in and asking you for directions back to the interstate. Maybe they're going to buy something, maybe they're not. But what is the neighborly thing to do is to give them directions back to the interstate and not give them misdirection.
Why do you assume that that's what I would do?
I think that possibly you might have a little fun with that.
I would. You're going to take the next 8 lefts.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, 8 lefts. Honey, you writing this down?
Yeah.
8 lefts. Yeah. But yeah, so those are kind of fun. I mean, like I said, I looked at the battle space of publishing the private sector and looked at it the same way I would as a problem on the battlefield, and looked at opportunity, ways to capitalize on momentum, ways to adapt, gaps in the enemy's defenses, things that weren't being done, and just decided, hey, if I want to continue to do what I love to do, which is write books, then I got to sell a couple. And so how do I do that? Well, I got to add something of value to people's day through these platforms that weren't available 30 years ago. So I try to do that, try to add value to people's day. Speaking of adding value, the mountain bike crashes.
Yeah.
How long has that been now? 3 months or so you've been doing that?
Are you talking about my passion for watching them?
Yeah.
Or starting to repost them?
Repost them.
Couple months.
How long have you been watching them without reposting them?
As long as the internet has existed. I've had a portal to have the access to that information.
Wow.
Do you not enjoy them to the same degree that I do?
I don't think to the same degree, because sometimes I'm concerned for the person that is crashing. Like for the ones where the net goes.
Yeah.
And
Scorpion Kings.
Is that what that was? I don't even know what that means.
If you don't follow Scorpion King on Instagram, I don't know if you're living your life.
Really?
Properly. Yeah.
They just post these sorts of things?
And then there's Hall of Meat.
Are you serious? I've never heard of either of these.
There's like daily mountain bike crashes, Jerry of the Day.
Yeah. That's a lot of ski stuff. I think the kids
Maybe.
That.
So after the last time I was on with Joe, we were talking about just horrendous crashes, and people, I don't have to look for them anymore.
People send them
to me.
Wow.
My Instagram feed is perfectly curated with people fucking themselves up and otters.
And
those are the two things. And Frenchies too.
What?
Yeah. Like French bulldogs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. A buddy of mine has a Frenchie named Kool-Aid.
Okay.
And that's basically what I see. It's like wreck otter, wreck Frenchie.
Yeah. So those are, so speaking, anyway, interesting. Yeah. I can't take too many of them because I do get concerned for the person that's just destroyed themselves.
Somebody made it.
Some people pop right back up though.
Yeah.
You see this thing, you're like,
it's
oh my
gosh.
gosh.
Being in shock.
You're like, yeah. Like, oh. Yeah.
Some of them don't hop right back up. You know what I mean? Because they might be dead.
A lot of them look like that's a strong possibility.
I don't think so.
Really?
Somebody chose to upload it. It wasn't me. I figure while watching it, whatever is going to happen has already happened. So I want to be able to pass it on as a gift for the world.
You know what? I saw a couple you did today, and I hadn't thought this before, but as I watched them today, I thought, 2 of these look like the person was trying to crash. Have you had that?
I haven't considered that.
Have you watch the ones from today later?
All right.
And see, like, this one looks like the person tried to do this. I think the mud one, there was a mud one.
Oh, are they headed into the...
I think
who
so.
knows?
But 2 of them, I was like, now that it's getting popular, I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that people would set something up to have a horrendous crash so they could put it out there.
Life is about the choices that you make.
I know. Yeah. Make good choices.
You get one spine.
Stay in school, kids. Don't do drugs.
You get one spine. Oh, do with it what you want.
And the motorcycle ones, and the one with the sled with the snow machine, snowmobile.
Yeah.
That one was horrible.
My favorite one is the dude who was wheeling the 4-wheeler. It came down and he went over the front
and
got
ran
run over by his own 4-wheeler.
I don't know if I saw that one.
I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
Heavy rotation.
Yeah, well, thank you. I can't wait to watch it. Some of those look pretty brutal.
That was one of my favorites because logistically, very hard to pull off.
Very hard to do.
Very hard to run over yourself with the vehicle or machine that you were driving.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you post this one? Somebody else did one. Maybe it was, because I watch yours, because they show up in your thing. I think it started putting them into, what's that thing, that search feature where it just shows you stuff that they think you would like.
You're welcome.
I think they started to show up in there because I've never searched out anything like that. But they showed this one where the person is pulling on a jet ski and they're on a rope and they pull on the jet ski and it flings the guy. And what does he do? He crashes right into the back of the jet ski. Yeah.
What more could you want? Merry Christmas.
I feel like
Happy
I should probably
Easter,
write
whatever.
I should probably write book 6. Yeah. Awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah. I'll consider posting less. I mean, I actually won't, but it's amazing. Like I said, my feed is perfectly curated for the things that interest me the most.
Yeah.
Rex, otters, Frenchies.
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect.
Close it out.
Awesome, man. Dude, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course.
Like I said, I love doing this, love getting up to see you. And I'm super excited for the Black Rifle Coffee setup that I just saw down the road, although it's just a pit of mud right now.
It looks like a hole in the ground.
I feel like there's potential there.
In 30 days, it'll be, by the time people hear this, the foundation should be poured, structural steel should be arriving, and then within a week or so after that, based off what the construction company says, it's a erector set put together, and visually at least, it's going to start moving along really quickly.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're about, what month are we in? April, May, June, July, August. 6-7 months away.
Awesome. So that means my podcast studio was supposed to be done on January 10th.
Of this year?
This year. Yeah.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
I hope we have a better crew than you.
Right on schedule. Awesome, man. Awesome.
All right, man.
Great seeing you.
Until next time.
Take care. Bye.